Gentlemen, thank you for doing this. I'm impressed in many ways. I'm surprised all three of you agreed to come on here, but, hey, we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I would assume the beginning of Froggy Radio in Pittsburgh. And that's where the three of you met, right?
Yes, sir.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
That's where we met you.
It is, indirectly, yes, but that's absolutely true.
We all actually met in Uniontown, Brownsville.
Yes, sir. Brownsville, Pennsylvania.
Brownsville.
Actually, California, PA.
California, yes, sir. Yep, that's right behind the stadium.
Yep.
Behind the stadium.
I'll tell you a story about Tim Miller. When I took this job
Here we go.
20 years ago, I took this job. There was a guy working at Froggy here in Pittsburgh that I knew from back home, and he goes, I just want to warn you.
Matt Albrecht.
He's saying his name.
Whatever.
All right, he goes,
it deserves.
It'll get out there, so he'll see it now.
Yep.
He'll know it's true, though. He goes, look, I got to warn you, there's a guy here at the station that he always talks about banging your mom and your wife and stuff. Just be aware of that. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that sounds harsh, man. Yeah. And then I'd only been there about 2 weeks, and then he walked down the hall and goes, I banged your mom last night, or whatever. I was like, that's that guy right there.
I did not say
That's
it that
horrible.
way. No.
That is so horrible.
So that's how I met this guy.
There's a setup that goes with that. Somebody put it out there, and then I just took it and went with it. But
he's been doing your mom jokes since way before it was cool, and then long after it was cool as well.
Yeah, it's kind of my thing.
You can't make that up.
That's true. Who tells you that? Just beware of the guy that talks about banging your mom and your wife all day at work.
His office wasn't a trailer.
Dozens.
True story.
Yeah. Listen, Matt was cool. I started before both these guys did. I was one of Gerald's first hires in California. And
PA.
Yeah, California, PA. Sorry. Yeah. It was different then, way different. Small market, trying to work our way into Pittsburgh. And
right.
As we moved along, Gerald added pieces and parts that were necessary to make the move to Pittsburgh. And we hired Donny in as a promotions assistant. And then Jeremy was already picked long before you got here, I think, on account of Frank Bell. Matt had mentioned you were coming here, but you were coming this way, but you still had some time to till we got you here. Mm-hmm. And it was almost, I don't know, you never worked in Uniontown. You were in the office up in Ryan Court is where you started, if I'm not mistaken.
When we launched Froggy in Pittsburgh,
yep.
It was in March of 2002.
Yep.
And the new studio wasn't built until like June.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
For like March, April, May, I had an apartment in Robinson, but I drove all the way down to California, PA to work and back. Donny, you probably did the same thing, right?
Yeah, I lived in West Mifflin, so I was coming up 43 whenever they first opened 43.
Yeah.
So it was, but the thing was, Tim Miller and I, when we were moving into Pittsburgh, we were driving that drive sometimes back and forth 3 times in a day.
Oh, at the very least.
It was awful.
When I go down, like I'm going to be going down later this week to the mountains there, Ohio Pile. When I go down 70 and get on 43, that big hill that's there by the ramp, it just reminds me of when I first took this job 20 years ago. And we would go there. At the end of the day, I'd see that big hill and just, you know what I'm talking about, where you get on 70? So I always think back on that. And I didn't know where I'd moved to. Like, you guys are all Pennsylvania guys, and I was like, where the hell did I move? Because...
Your accent has changed a little bit. When I first met him, he was like, hey, man, I'm Danger. Nice to meet you. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, nice to meet you.
I'm from Memphis.
Yeah, I come here from Memphis.
Was it let me ask you this. Was it a genuine accent, or was he like throwing it on pretty heavy?
No,
it was genuine.
I thought it was genuine.
No,
it wasn't too hard that you would think that it was just playing it. It was just genuine.
No, he was from the South.
Yeah.
Like, he was from the South, and it's definitely, he definitely talks more Pittsburgh now than Tennessee, but that took 20 years.
I married a Yinzer, popped out Yinzer babies. It happens, right?
You did.
You popped out Yinzer babies?
Well, my wife did.
Oh. Well, you never know in 2022, right? You just never really.
Know, right?
But Donny, when I met Donny, so I don't know. So I started in March. You started like the next month.
April.
April 2002.
April 8th, 2002.
So I remember meeting Donny and thinking, and I you moved to a place like Pittsburgh, and you guys are all like lifelong Pittsburghers. when you get to the airport, it's like it tells you the Pittsburghese, yins, and downtown. And I meet Donny about a month after being here. I'm like, good God, this guy is the Yinzer. This is the guy from the T-shirt.
No doubt.
The Pittsburghese guy. And he was young. I mean, we were all in our 20s at the time. But, I mean, that I just remember Donny was like the most Yinzer guy I'd ever met.
It's funny because he's looking at me like, what's this guy saying? And I'm looking at him like, what's this guy saying? Like, it was like, this guy's weird. He's looking at me like, this guy's
Chinese
weird.
and Russian to each other.
I'm guessing there was some communication challenges.
He was very Yinzer.
But then we started doing his street promos. We were down in Point State Park hitting golf balls. And next, the security guard comes up because we didn't realize there were steps there and there was people down over by the point. And we're in Point State Park whacking golf balls out of the river.
And that was permitted by law?
No, he stopped us. But he was very kind about it.
But do you remember what we told the security guard? So we were by the fountain. We teed up golf balls, and we were trying to hit them across the river.
Because of the 84 Lumber Classic, John Daly was coming.
Yes, and we had seen the sign there. It said no biking, no camping, no hunting. And when the security guard came over, we said, doesn't say no golfing.
He was cool about it. He was actually cool about it, and he actually started listening to the station, so he did know what Froggy was, but that was very, very early on.
Yeah, we were new. We were a new station in town.
Like I said, we were very.
I think they added no golfing to the
promotion
sound
driven. I mean, all the vehicles we had, and I think we did something down
skateboarding through the tunnel was was that your very first?
That was early.
That was one of your very first. I remember dropping you off down there.
I know. I wish there's the video. Remember we filmed it on a camera that had high 8 tape. Do you remember high 8 tape?
Yeah, for sure.
So I just need to find someone to turn it to digital. But
good luck.
He dropped me off in the Fort Pitt Tunnel, and I skateboarded. And this was 20 years ago. There was a little it was only like a foot wide ledge. And I'm skateboarding on it. And I remember getting about 10 feet into it. And how long's the Fort Pitt Tunnel? Half a mile?
Yeah.
I remember thinking, this ain't a good idea. Because it's rush hour traffic. And also, when you get far into there and you're not in a car.
You can't breathe.
Oh, yeah. The car fumes. Mm-hmm. And but these guys, they saved me. They picked me up on the other side. And I was like, I'll never do that again.
I dropped them off, and I thought, they're never going to get an ambulance in here quick enough to get this dude out.
That's seriously one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
I'm going to go through, come back around. If he's not there, hopefully the ambulance will get here and pick him up before.
What was the first promotion you did when you got to this town with Froggy?
I mean, the first stunt I did was that.
Skateboard was the first.
You skateboarded through the Fort Pitt tunnels.
Yeah, but Froggy was launching big time, though. We did
We didn't do anything like that. That was the first time we actually did something, I think, in the city, right, Donny? Like, it's we did small stuff at the venues, but it wasn't city.
And Jimmy Roach did our morning show, and man, I love Jimmy Roach. He was at a different point in his career. He didn't want to go skateboard.
No, he's not
skateboarding.
Yeah,
no. And I was a guy out of college, with red hair named Danger.
Danger boy.
Yeah, right. So I would do it. Jimmy was always the best. I loved Jimmy, but
that wasn't his. He was never going to do those kind of.
So that was I had my role was to kind of go out and just do ridiculous stuff, and these guys. Do you remember I was just telling my kids about this that day. We went to the Penguins game in the apartment I lived in across from the Penguins arena. Do you remember one time we had people selling Coke in the Hill District?
Was that right downtown?
Yes.
Downtown.
Yes.
I had people to win
Coca-Cola?
Yes.
I remember that.
They were walking around selling, like, who wants to buy some Coke? And then they would show them the Coke cans. And yeah. And then we had people selling Grey Poupon in Upper St. Clair.
They had to chug it.
Yeah,
they had to chug it. I was on
that was for NASCAR tickets or something.
Yeah. But I look back on that stuff and I would totally not do that now.
You can't do a lot of things
that
we used to do.
Somebody chokes, you're going to jail.
Yeah. I choked on a bottle of Grey Poupon.
Remember how we bought we were giving away it was Club Terrace tickets to the Pocono 500, and we went down to Heinz Field, and I put 5 gallons of ketchup in a kiddie pool.
Oh, yeah.
And these people dove in it, and they had to find poker chips and dig it out. And it was summertime. It was hot.
Yeah.
And these people come out just ketchup all over. I'm like, here's your tickets, man.
Do you remember we used to have people pour Rita's Italian Ice down their pants?
Yeah, we did that a lot. I remember that.
That was fun.
We did the Undy 500
Oh, that was where they rode in underwear on a tricycle
on
and
a
raced.
tricycle. It was right across from Tim Miller's apartment.
Yeah, I remember.
Over in Bridgeville.
By the
across from
Tambellini's.
Tambellini's parking lot. Yeah.
So help me understand. So when Froggy came to Pittsburgh, there was one other station at the time?
Yeah.
We don't have to get into specifics, but there was one other station.
There was one other country station.
Okay.
Yep.
So the idea was to make Froggy, was it about youth and just being hip and a little bit on the edge, or was it, how are you trying to separate yourself from the existing country station in town?
The way they worked it was we had 4 stations, and they're all on the outskirts of the city itself.
Except 98.3, that was in town.
Well, before, we didn't have that stick at that time.
Yeah.
We had 94.9, which was in Uniontown. You had 103.5, which was in Steubenville. And you had 104.3, which is in
It was out of East Liverpool.
Rochester.
Which it's not anymore. Now it's in Hookstown.
Yes.
But
Beaver County.
it was not a 50,000 watt tower at the time.
Right.
It was a smaller tower.
We didn't have the 98.3 signal at the time.
When I came here was when that launched.
Yes, that was the start of it. They did 10,000 songs in a row. And
We had trucks driving
They did
around.
what?
10,000 songs in a row. That's
No
how they kicked
commercials.
off the station.
I didn't know that.
Yep, 10,000
Wow.
songs in a row. And that was just to get us introduced. That was before we had Jeremy.
I was
if
there,
you
but we
were
didn't
here
go on
yet
air.
or not, but it was just preparing people. This is coming, here you go. And no commercials, no nothing. Just straight music. Just, people to come in. Hey, country music, no commercials. It's the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so then we got the 98.3 signal, and honestly, it was you have Y108, so you have one country station here. There was definitely enough listeners to have two country stations, and we proved that 100%. Now you have a choice, and when you give people a choice, it took us not a long time, but it was a hard fought battle because we got blocked out of the venues, and they made it as hard on us as they possibly could. I have been thrown out of Star Lake then more times than you can imagine.
Thrown out for what?
Just being on site.
Propaganda.
Yeah.
Oh, before you had the right to be there?
No, there was not about a right to be there. It was because that
Live Nation.
Live Nation, and
It wasn't Live Nation at the time, though. What was it?
Was it Clear Channel?
It was Clear Channel. It was Clear Channel. Yes. They had a good relationship with
Starlight.
No, they had a good relationship with the other country station. I don't want to call people out or anything like that, but so us coming in there was a threat to them. They didn't respect us as much as they should have, but we were still a threat. And they figured, listen, we'll crush these guys just like we have every other small country stations come in here from whatever, out Weirton and all these other small country stations. So I have been humiliated and stepped on and crapped on and all this other stuff. And, that's just part of it, is growing pains. But Gerald Getz and Frank Bell would not give up. And we did some crazy stuff to get ourselves out there. We just kept going and kept going.
We took the Pepsi Cola Roadhouse off of
Right,
108.
that was a good start. The Pepsi Cola Roadhouse was a great start.
It was right next door to Star Lake. We started selling out shows there every weekend, or at least once a month.
300 of them.
Yeah, 300 of them.
And then Donny and I rolled into the pavilion one day in the RV, and he had a video camera.
Tim's like, all right, you got to record this. I'm like, there's no way he's not going to see us.
Yeah.
He goes, listen, just do it. So I'm sitting there without.
And-
And this wasn't like the day where you had video cameras like in here where
It was
they
a
were like,
video camera under
it was like I was like,
a hoodie.
I had it up
And
like on my shoulder, like
Yeah.
like-
There was no phone with the
there was a
video
boom.
camera.
There was
It
a boom coming off of it.
Yeah.
And all they wanted was video proof that they weren't allowing us into the venue. And I don't know if that ever worked or not, but sooner or later we got a foothold, and that's all we needed. And then once we got in there,
Well,
no, they
they
couldn't
realized
couldn't touch us.
we were selling just as many tickets
Yes,
for their
without a
venue
doubt.
as the other station was, and they needed us as much as we needed them. And that's what it came boiled down to, because the stations that we had, I mean, if you're at Star Lake, you have East and you have West. We were bringing in just as many people from the West
without a
side,
doubt.
from West Virginia, Ohio, Beaver County, all
Greene County,
Yeah.
you name it.
You name it. So, I
Fayette
mean,
County, Washington
we had an
County.
impact on their ticket sales because as we would sell tickets, they would give out passwords and stuff like that, and that's how they monitored their marketing of who was doing what and who was selling this. And for pre-sales, they would put either Froggy or whatever station in, and they saw what we were doing. So eventually we poor Tim, man, he was set up across the street the one time. The skybox sunk in. He had to get it towed out. That was a Jimmy Buffett show. Yeah. I was going in to have fun, and I remember driving in. I see him cross the road. I'm driving into the venue with my friends. He's out there jumping up and down. I'm like, what is it?
True story.
I call his phone. He's like, his goddamn truck's sunken. I'm going to get towed out of here.
I was so stuck. You can't. Listen,
okay.
This is the thing. After it was all said and done, and we had accomplished what we were trying to accomplish, being a real competitor, I wouldn't say I was called out, but some people felt like I was being a little bit going overboard against the competition. But again, I was humiliated. I had dealt with, you know what I mean, being stuck in mud and all this other stuff, and there was no way I was taking my foot off the neck of the competition ever, because they just wouldn't have never done that for us.
You were on a mission.
I was on a mission, and I had people Gerald Getz counting on me to make stuff happen, and that's why I never turned around. I never felt sorry. If the playing field had been level to start with, and we had been given an equal chance, it never would have been that way.
You always had to fight your way in.
Oh no, it was 100%.
Sure.
I mean, we were against everything.
But then we started sponsoring the regatta.
Yes,
and everyone saw us at the regatta. I mean, if there was a main event, we were there.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what was, as you three look back on it, what was the major event that kind of like you could have sat back and say, "Wow, I think we've kind of like we've made our mark in Pittsburgh. Like things are going to change."
I mean,
was it a concert? Was it a Chesney concert? Was it a regatta? What was it?
I got one for you. And I want to hear if you guys agree with me. So first of all, to sum up what they just said, when we launched in 2002 in Pittsburgh, there were other people in this market that were determined to make sure we failed. And they had relationships that we didn't have. And when he would go out to places, they were already against us because they had relationships with other people, and they had to fight. These guys fought.
Yep.
And like he said, get humiliated. You get humiliated when people make you leave the property in front of all your listeners. It's humiliating, you know. And but within 5 years, by 2007, Froggy was a top 3 station in the market. My show. I remember when Frank Bell gave me a hug because I was #1 in the market. Within 5 years, they could not ignore us anymore. And I would say it didn't even take that long.
Nope.
It was about 2 years.
It just took steps. Like it was one step after another, and you know. Like it was just winning little battle after little battle, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Like the first one was taking the Pepsi Cola Roadhouse, and we were exclusive there.
Yeah,
then we were using their lots.
That was a big step.
That was huge. That was very huge.
That was
also the Poverty Net Killbillies. When we did those shows with them at Station Square, and we were the only station there, that was big.
Yeah, you can't say enough about that. We were tied to them long before anybody.
And the other stations never played them.
Never
was
played them.
Because I lived next door to Chris Higbee my freshman year in college in our dorm. So I came out, I started working at a country station, and I was like, "Oh, this is your band, whatever." So, and first event I did with them was at Motordrome Speedway, which was another place that we did. We did those.
Is that still around?
I know Motordrome.
Yeah, but we did those races every week, and we became exclusive out there with Red Miley.
Where did we have? I think he just passed away.
Long time
No.
ago.
Oh, Matt Miley.
Yeah,
his son
Red
just
passed away a long time.
Yeah, Red passed away.
I think that just happened over the holidays. But didn't we have a Froggy race car? Which track was that at?
We did.
Was that at Pittsburgh Motor?
No, that's Pittsburgh.
We had one at each.
Did we?
Oh, we had one. So it was at
Yes,
Pittsburgh Motor Speedway, and then the one on 70.
Right. We had one out here, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, and then we did have one out for a couple years at Motordrome. We were on some.
Was Motordrome in New Stanton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we had our fishing boat.
Yes.
We had a fishing team.
So yeah,
Doug and
Mad Dog.
I used to talk
Doug
to
and
them.
Mad Dog.
Do you remember we had the boat on the Monongahela River, when
Yep.
you would go through the Fort Pitt Tunnel going towards downtown,
Oh, the barge.
it would be a barge that had a big giant Froggy banner on it. It was the Froggy boat.
The Steelers called it the nuisance barge.
Yeah, we had that for like 2 years, and I know everyone
sunk.
that was a competitor of us hated it.
It sunk.
Did it sink? Is that why it went away?
No, well,
Wait,
I
it
don't say that's
sunk?
why it went away, but it definitely did.
It sunk?
List or something.
Well, the
happened
Steelers
with-
called it the nuisance boat.
Yeah,
they
they
hated
hated
that
it.
thing
They hated
because we had to pay $2,000. I remember Gerald and Frank told me every time they moved it from over next to the
Stadium.
from that side of the river just over to
Across
the
from
North
Station
Shore
Square.
during concerts.
Yeah.
It would cost $2,000.
So,
but
Eric,
that thing was huge.
You remember going through the tunnel, and when you go through the tunnel over to the right, so it was kind of across the river from Station Square, there was this ginormous Froggy boat, and it said Froggy on the top of
remember
it.
it.
You would
that
see
was
from the news, like the
priceless.
news stations would be shown from Mount Washington. They have a thing from Pittsburgh, and you just see a big yellow Froggy banner.
There were so many people that wanted that boat to
It was like that
burn.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm surprised someone didn't throw up.
But
It was that
I forget
yellow.
what we paid.
It was that
Tim
yellow
used
you
to
guys
say
that was right there in that first 5 years, though. I want to say that was like 05 to 07. And you talk about how we became a commodity in Pittsburgh. We did everything you could possibly do.
Those were the very aggressive.
So let me ask you
years.
this:
very,
like,
very aggressive.
like
years.
was who in terms of the ownership group? Who was the point person to really like just go balls to the wall?
Gerald.
Just, Gerald
Gerald
was it.
Gatz.
Gerald,
Gerald
Gerald,
Gatz was.
Gerald would buy everything. I mean, you could.
He-
He could give suggestions and whatnot, but he had a vision, and he just spent money for promo items and like we were street team
Yeah.
to get recognized,
Yeah.
and then social media came in, and we started growing that, and we became the largest radio station on Facebook in the entire city. I think Kiss was probably
we were on that
the
early.
next one.
That
You
was
were
that
on
was
his
really
face. Yeah, you were on Facebook
kinda-
before the other ones were.
That was kind of Donny's deal. He was the one that really brought us into social media.
I learned
media.
that.
Were you doing
I
the
was
MySpace thing first?
Yeah,
we didn't do a MySpace,
yeah,
but
that might have been gone
what
by
we
then.
learned was just getting people to like and share, like be
Yep.
registered for tickets
Yep.
to this, and this is before I had to write rules
Yep.
for every
Contesting.
contest, and I would just we would figure out what tickets we had, and like, you know what, let's put a pair on social media
At least.
and like I said, when we did that with Mega Tickets, which was tickets to all the country shows,
I remember that.
we would get 10,000 likes and 15,000 shares on it, and it really grew.
When
And
did
then,
the mega ticket start? Roughly
06?
Oh my goodness! No, well,
later, right?
no. It was early.
It had to be close.
2004.
Yes,
I mean,
somewhere in there.
I remember it used to be the Route 18 Roundup.
That's
Before
right.
it was the
Yes.
Mega Ticket. It was Route
Yes.
18 Roundup. And I think that's what it was when I started in 2000. And I think it was Route 18 Roundup for 2 years. But they only had 5 or 6 shows on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a small lineup.
Right. And then when they went to the Mega Ticket, it seemed like every year it just got more and more and more.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know what it ended up. I left before Donny did, but how many shows were you doing out there a year? 12?
The most
14?
we did in 1 year was 14 shows. I
Yeah,
believe it was.
I mean that's a heavy
That's-
a heavy show load.
Oh, hell
considering
yeah. For sure.
the state, anything that's happened at the stadiums or at over at Pitt.
Between regatta, stadium
Yeah,
shows,
Arena,
smaller
rib cook-off,
the
the 4th of
cook-off.
July.
county fairs. I mean, you're talking anywhere between probably 30 and 40 shows a summer. You know, they're not all huge shows
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Right.
Sure.
And you have to be there for them.
Right.
So it doesn't
Honestly,
matter.
it became too much.
No, the year after Tim left is when we had the heaviest
Yeah.
schedule, and but our teams were always great.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah, we had
honestly,
good people.
we all worked well together. The people that were there,
people.
and they knew everyone. Kind of, there was never any yelling at anyone or anything like that. It was like,
Yeah.
you do something stupid, like, come on, man.
We
I've
had
seen you two guys get stressed out though.
No.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
no,
me just being around. I remember just seeing things that made you a little stressed out.
Ticket winners.
you couldn't turn back
Your
time.
tickets up at the window.
And
I want
backstage
my tickets here. I want my
passes.
tickets here.
I
Backstage.
thrived off of it. I loved it.
I
loved it.
Stadium shows were way different than working because we knew everybody at the pavilion. It was easy to accomplish everything we had
Yeah.
to. When we did stadium shows, everything was different.
Right,
and they they did things differently, and the timelines were different. You didn't always know when things were going to take place, and you would find out 10 minutes before, and then you had to try to find Kenny Chesney. Try to find all your backstage pass winners who are out in the parking lot getting drunk for 4 hours.
That's beautiful.
8 hours.
And get them in here and try to scoop them up and get them in here.
And also while we're running another concert ourselves in the Great Hall. Like we would bring in an up and coming artist that we would have in the Great Hall. So we would be running a show. Yeah. And I mean, it was me and Tim Miller.
Yep.
And then
pretty much.
As the day went on, no offense to Danger, the DJs started getting out in the mix and started having a little fun in the park. But, people were handing them shots and this and that. Like, hey, man, where are you at?
I don't know.
I'm up by PNC Park.
I don't know.
I'm like, you got to announce you got to get on the stage in the Great Hall in 7 minutes and then get this show on. Okay, I'll be right there.
But he always made it. He always made it.
He come riding down on a golf cart somehow. I'm like,
he always made it. I don't know how he made it, but always.
Tim would just stand there.
Oh, my head would be.
He'd just stand there shaking his head.
It doesn't have to be this hard. It doesn't have to be this hard.
That's my second memory of Tim Miller. Besides that he told jokes about wanting to bang your mom and your wife. My second impression of Tim Miller was I've always been, and you're going to laugh when I say this, like my wife's an hour late for everything. I'm close to on time. I said close. But he doesn't agree with me. Here's why he doesn't agree with me. Tim Miller's like an hour and a half early for everything.
Yep. That's the military.
He's a military guy.
Yes. Always. So on time to him is like an hour and a half late. You know what I'm saying?
He doesn't understand realtor time.
No.
Well, the thing is, Danger, if I wanted Danger on Saturday at an event, like we're going to do a remote somewhere, like if I wanted him there at 8:30, I'd be like, not 1 minute past 8 o'clock. Not 1 minute past 8 o'clock.
6:15.
And then I've done it to him ever since.
Yep.
Ever since then, I've always put him on at least a 15-minute
And I got to tell you, when I was in my 20s and took this job, I did not appreciate that at all.
No.
As I've gotten older, I appreciate it. I really do.
I left for an event without him one day. He was supposed to meet us. And listen, when we go do an event, we have a whole setup to do. The DJ just has I won't say just has to. They have their purpose, and
they go meet with the client,
most important part.
figure out what their talking points. But we have to get this equipment set up.
Yeah, we have to get equipment set up and get the all the landlines and everything, so we can communicate with the studio. And one morning, I just I'm not waiting another second. I left without him.
I remember that day.
Where am I at? Where are you guys?
I think I saw you guys driving out as I was pulling in, and I was like, no, but he wouldn't come back because he was a stickler.
No,
and listen, I think he was right. And the funny thing was, it was like an 11 a.m. event, and it was like 9:15, and they're pulling out. But they said 9:15, not 9:16 or 17.
You learned, huh?
Yeah.
Because
that was when we had to blow up 20 balloons and put a skybox up and banners down and set up a Comrex and wire to the station.
But how do you get employees that show up an hour and 45 minutes early? These guys did that,
Not me.
and I respect it.
You know why?
No.
You know why? Because I worked with that Comrex, and I'd done tons of events before that. And if it can go wrong, it absolutely will go wrong. So that's why you get there early, you iron everything out, because I don't want it to fall on me that, on Monday, getting called in the office, be like, what happened here? Why weren't we ready? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? I didn't want it to fall back on me. So that's always the way I approached it was, let's get there early. If we have to stand around for a half hour before the event, good. That means if something happens, we can fix it. And and that makes the DJ look even better, because if the DJ goes on air and all of a sudden everything cuts out, we look like idiots. And
I agree.
We did that enough as it was.
I don't think you ever missed a commercial.
No.
We did not miss an
That's
action.
revenue, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. That's what it comes down to.
In the 18 years that I was doing events, I had one time that something happened that I was not able to do our first commercial. I forget what it was. Oh, I got pulled over in the skybox.
I wasn't with you that day.
Listen to this.
Awesome.
So we had that big skybox. Giant truck, looks like a boombox, goes up 30 feet in the air.
It's parked right outside my office.
So I'm driving up 376. And all of a sudden, I'm driving down. I mean, we've been driving this thing since...
Do you know this story, Tim?
I don't know.
Since 2002, I've been driving this thing. This is 2000... 18,
This was
17.
after Tim left.
After
a couple
my
years
time.
after.
Yeah. So I'm driving down, coming just into Beaver, right, just about to cross the river, and that's where we got off. Was Midland because I was going to East Liverpool to a McDonald's for an event. So I come down this cop car comes flying past me, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's going to get that guy, whatever. I'm like, whoa, I wonder what that guy did because there was a truck going. And then all of a sudden, he slammed his brakes, and I'm getting to the bottom. I get across the bridge. I have my turn, so I get off, and as I'm getting off, I see in the side view mirror he went past. He's driving backwards up the on-ramp. I'm like, oh, man. Awesome. I was like, this dude's coming to get me. Then an undercover cop come pulling out of nowhere. They pull me over. They're like, you have any idea why we pulled you over? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, you don't have a truck registration number. He goes, how long has this truck been like this? I was like, since 2002. He goes, what?
That's beautiful.
I was like, since 2002. He goes,
that's beautiful.
Like, basically.
And what year was it again?
Like 2017, 2000. He's like,
15 years later.
he's like, you never got pulled over? I'm like, no.
We've been everywhere.
I'm like, he goes, where's your fire extinguisher? I'm like, I was like,
behind the
Same
seat.
place my registration number is.
Behind the seat.
no, so I reached
Behind
back.
the seat.
It was. I
Behind
reached
the
behind
seat.
it. He goes,
It hadn't been inspected.
it was this fire extinguisher's been laying there since probably
2002.
2002. He goes, where's your triangles? Your emergency triangles. I'm like, I have no idea. He goes, all right. He's like, I'll be back. So I'm like, me and whoever, we're sitting in the front. So I look behind the thing.
I wasn't there for this one, by the way.
Well, there's this, all of a sudden I see this cardboard box in the back. And it's so old, like it's like breaking apart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? So I pull it out.
Triangles.
I'm like, hey, I found the triangles. He's like, he gave me like 2 tickets. He's like, you after today, don't drive this thing, whatever. I was like, but no, like literally, we drove that thing for
Oh, yeah. Illegal.
18 years. We were
No
driving that thing
problem.
without a registration number.
Different regimes running the place. No one knew, but hey, you live and you learn. We didn't hurt anybody.
Well, it was still registered to Key Market. It was
Not
still
at all.
it was still registered to Key Market.
We didn't
According
hurt
to the
It was
paperwork.
well before. Yeah.
We
was
didn't
our
hurt
old
anybody.
company.
That's all. That's usually the answer for most things.
No
we didn't
doubt.
hurt anybody.
Hey, if I can go back, talking about getting events early and all this. When I was still in Uniontown before these guys got there, we did a gas promotion, and this was oh my god, so long ago. I don't even remember what it was. Gasoline was like $1.50 or $1.80, whatever it was, and.
Sounds like the Bush administration. to me.
Yes, it was way back, and we were offering it at 94.9 cents a gallon at one gas station on your way to Uniontown from Brownsville. I don't remember. It's right when you get on Route 43. We got there early, and we were going to broadcast live, and we went in. I got there super early, and we couldn't run the phone line across the driveway of the gas station because of the amount of traffic we're going to have. So we ran it overhead. So I did this whole elaborate thing and ran it overhead. We're getting close to start, and literally 35, 40 seconds before we get ready to go live, a truck comes in there and snaps that line. So we went dead to the beginning of this gigantic gas promotion. We've been pumping.
Was that at Sheets?
No.
Okay.
This is a small gas station. I don't even remember what it was
Snapped
at this
apart.
point. But
Great Scott.
that's what I'm saying. Like it fell apart immediately. Like 45 seconds to go, and this thing comes down, and we got it going. But again, to get there early, you don't know what's going to happen when you start, and that just it didn't kill us, but. Jimmy Roach was flipping out.
Oh, it was Jimmy Roach.
Oh, my God. It was Frank Bell and Gerald and what's going on? And I was like, you wouldn't believe it if I told you what happened just now. But
And Froggy was so busy. Like, if you were to put a map out here in front of us three, we've probably been to every dot on that map. Like, I'm talking about from Plum to Cannonsburg, from Beaver Falls to Smock to Connellsville to Washington.
Do you remember when we went to Venango County?
Connell.
Yeah. That's a story. Should you tell it, or I'll start it off and you tell us. We got an email from our manager saying you guys have an event this weekend in Cranberry Township
At Cricket.
at a Cricket store, which that's still around, right? Cricket phones
Somewhere.
So
for sure.
we look at it, and there's a Cranberry Township in Butler County, right? That would be the one you would think, because that's what
Right.
we cover.
Right.
This Cranberry Township was up near Erie. There's a second Cranberry Township.
I'm aware.
And we wrote somebody, we were like, hey, is this the right one? They were like,
he comes
yeah.
up to me. We were at Tailgaters.
That's not even
he
your
goes-
coverage area.
No,
Right?
This is a sad story, Eric McKenna.
It was sent by an ad agency, and apparently this manager didn't look hard enough to see
Which
what
Cranberry?
the address it was. He just saw Cranberry, so he said yes, and we will be there. And he comes up to me and goes, "Dude, did you look at the address to that for that event tomorrow? We're just having drinks at Tailgaters up by the arena." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No, it's got to be
It's Cranberry Township.
And then next, he calls and he goes, we called the manager up and he's like, "Oh,
That's like 3 hours each way.
hey." Well, he called because we were taking the skybox.
We did it too.
We drove.
That's horrifying.
We drove 2.5 hours there.
Yeah, 2.5.
to do a 2-hour event, and drove 2.5 hours back.
And you know what's funny, Eric? It went great.
They loved
There were
it.
so many people excited.
But they
Who's
couldn't
this
be-
Froggy here?
How did they even know?
But the thing was, they're like, "Oh,
Because we had
man,
the big sky
I think we're
box.
gonna have you guys back." I'm like, "The hell you are."
Yeah, the people at the cricket store were like,
I
can we
hope
get
so.
you guys back here? We were like, nope. Not a chance.
So when he says we've been everywhere, we've been all the way down to Wheeling.
Yeah.
all up eastern
Nemacolin,
Ohio,
Wow,
Fayette County, Westmoreland
Youngstown,
County, Butler County,
Green
Beaver County,
County,
Washington, Allegheny, every little dot, man. We've been
You
there.
name it.
We've been
I remember
everywhere.
walking down a hallway and peeking into Donny's office. His office, I think, was where was your office in Ryan Court?
When you came down that hallway, Donny's was right there on the right. As soon as you
Yes.
turned down, I was the next one on the left across
right.
from the entrance down
That's
to
right.
corporate.
But his was closer to my entrance though.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was right there.
I was past the corporate, so whenever they came out to go down and yell
Yeah.
Danger or Tim,
Right, Platt?
they would take a right. My office was
So
left.
strategically,
past-
it worked out good for you.
Oh my God, perfect.
I remember
past the
peeking my
price
head
was.
in there multiple times. I said, "Well, where are you off to tonight?" And you would just give me some crazy out of the way and like, "Can you believe I got to drive to Bump?"
Yeah, we're going here, and then
I used to
tomorrow
go home
morning we're
going,
going
"Man,
here.
that
we're
guy's
going
job
there."
must really suck."
we
He's
did a lot
driving
of
all
that.
over.
I can remember Saturdays where we'd be like at Chippewa Township from 10 to noon, and then we'd be from Monroeville from 6 to 8. Or so, it was like, it's just
And
ridiculous.
Steel City Harley.
Then we would have a concert. It's
Yeah, it's Burgettstown.
We would do 2-3 events in the morning, like because they would say, "Okay, we could
yeah,
do
we
a 10 to
did.
noon, a noon to 2, and a 2 to 4," and then we would have like a Pepsi Roadhouse show that night.
Yep.
So like
we just work all day,
Yeah,
just grind it
But
out.
at the end of the day, it felt so good.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, no, we had fun.
So-
It was fun.
A good accomplishment.
We weren't doing it for
From
the money.
where
I
we
promise you
were-
that.
Yep.
From where we were when we started to doing that kind of stuff, it was very fulfilling. That's how I felt. I don't know who else felt that way, but
Well, was it
just-
kind of like a challenge? I mean, you guys came into the market, and
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
already
absolutely.
established
We
stations.
earned it.
We're going
Yep.
to come in there and take a piece of your hide, and then we're going to beat you.
Well, when people disrespect you,
Yeah.
it gives you a little something extra to play for, right?
I take a lot of pride.
bet.
I take a
Shit,
huge
I
amount.
bet.
I've been out of radio for however many years now, but I take a lot of pride in the fact that we come in here with nothing,
Right.
and we became a player, huge, and that is not just promotions or it's everybody. I mean, sales team, DJs, promotions. It takes a village to accomplish that. There's no way you can do it. Just saying, oh well, we went out in public and we made a difference. I mean, you got to get the ratings to keep going and all this other stuff. So it was a group victory, and I just probably one of the best eras in my life, quite honestly, to be honest, was working with these guys and just
Well, it was pretty apparent, though. I mean,
Yeah,
again,
it just-
Tim was like the dad. Like he had the military background. I was in my 20s. I was a loose cannon.
He was the discipline.
Undisciplined.
He would come in like I was the streets guy. Like I told Tim Miller.
Yeah.
Like we had that 30-foot limo.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to drive this thing up to Mount Washington because we got to drive past the Lamont because they're having this ad agency thing. And he's driving this thing, and I'm like, if I continue to let this guy drive, I mean, I don't know him real well.
He's right.
We're gonna die.
1,000%.
I said to him, I said, do me a favor, let me drive. I got in that thing, man. I started whipping that thing around. He's like, oh my God. He goes, so, anytime the limo had to go somewhere.
Where to next, sir?
You want me to tell the story, Donnie?
Which one?
The limo story?
Uh-oh.
We're downtown Pittsburgh for a limo lunch. And the light turns.
It's a limo lunch.
That's where we take the Froggy limo. We get a whole bunch of Froggy listeners in it, and we go to lunch somewhere.
Okay.
And for this day, we went downtown Pittsburgh. Obviously, our office was out west in Robinson. We're downtown Pittsburgh at lunchtime on a weekday. That's the busiest time to be downtown, right?
Who's driving?
Donnie.
He is, not me.
We're at the red light. The light turns green. Donnie's making a left. He turns left in a 30-foot limo right in front of everyone and slowly just turns right in front of everybody. And Donnie goes, and I was like, oh, my God, Donnie goes, that's the Pittsburgh left.
That's how he was introduced to the Pittsburgh left.
Like he goes,
yeah, we're going to do it in a limo.
He goes, yeah, in a limo.
30 foot. But no, this thing was a big. I was like, she's like.
Everybody had to wait for Donnie.
When Donnie got hired, okay, I did.
Who hired Donnie? Did you have input on that?
Well, I did. Hey, this is another great story.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, this is how Donnie got involved in this.
Donnie got his job.
Craziness.
How did Donnie get his job?
Okay, so when we were ready to make our move, to Pittsburgh, Gerald came to me and said, "Look, we need to start interviewing people to get someone to help you do what you're going to have to do, because this stuff we're doing in Brownsville and Uniontown is one thing, but Pittsburgh's another, and we're going to be very aggressive." So they put ads in the paper, and this is before online stuff, obviously. And so we started receiving resumes, and we were getting 10 a day. And so the resumes started coming in, and I went through them, gave them to Gerald. He went through them, and he's like, all right, well, take these 20 here. So we started interviewing people. And, I was in a trailer, right? I was in a trailer.
Every good party starts with that.
Let me jump in here, though. So our new studio where we met you in Ryan Court, Robinson, was being built. They had already planned that. When they hired me, they were like, hey, in about 4 months, there's going to be the best. And it was the best office studio in all of Pittsburgh.
Yes, yeah. Dude, I remember your dad very, very well. Had many conversations with him. He was a good dude.
But prior to that, they had us in a temporary setup, and a lot of time temporary setups. There was this little.
And where was that at?
It was in California, PA, right across the river from Brownsville, Fayette County.
Okay.
And 94.9, the studio that they were kind of serving. The tower's in Uniontown, in the middle of Fayette County, but for whatever reason, the office is right across the river.
So you were driving to California, Pennsylvania,
which is in Washington County, where Cal U University is.
That's
Cal
a
University.
Hall.
Yeah.
No.
So, but there was a little trailer. I remember it outside the studio, so we had some extra space. Now back to Tim.
Like a construction trailer.
That's where my.
I don't want you to think we were just in a trailer park.
It was like a construction trailer, we're an office.
There was a building,
office.
but as things expanded, the promotion department got moved out of the building into a trailer.
I remember,
which was me. The promotion department was just me in this big trailer.
And I remember pulling up to that little office when I just got here, and then somehow I had to go in there to say hi, talk to you, and you were like, "Hey, meet Donnie. He just got hired." I remember the day you got hired. I remember that.
It was in
the trailer.
Didn't start that way.
Okay.
We did all these. I did a ton of interviews, and I don't know if you guys who out there's ever done interviews, but it is tedious, and probably 95% of it is worthless. Quite honestly, I received resumes from people who were not anywhere qualified for the job, but whatever, you're trying. I had a handwritten resume that came from the Fayette County Prison from a guy who was getting ready to be released on parole.
I hope he got a good job.
We considered him, but Unfortunately, he didn't get the job. So Gerald went through resumes.
Would have been a good story, though.
No, well, it is a good story, quite honestly.
I'm still looking for my first prisoner guest.
Yeah, I know, right? I hope he's not listening.
I did do a remote in a prisoner reform thing.
Pretty
just so
upset
you know.
with me by now. Anyway, so we go through them. So we start interviewing people, and people are coming in. Eddie Crow came in and interviewed.
I remember hearing that.
Yes, he came in and interviewed,
Eddie's done
and
this show.
he did his part, and then
Wait, Eddie was in prison?
No, that wasn't Eddie. Eddie
Sorry,
did not. Eddie did not handwrite.
I've
his
actually
resume.
never met him.
He had a very professional resume.
I think he was supposed to join us.
Good dude.
He was, and he mentioned to somebody that he got the thanks but no thanks when he interviewed with me, and I think he held that against me. But that was for the pickle.
I never met him, but
That
when
was
I
for
was
pickle.
taking this job in Pittsburgh, I think at the beginning he was supposed to be part of the on-air lineup.
Yep.
Oh, right on.
Probably somewhere along there.
You can ask him that next time.
He's a DVE veteran, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yes, he was
He's
long
on
before
BVP
that.
right now.
So, anyways, I didn't know that at the time. So, whatever. Water under the bridge for him. Sorry, Eddie.
I've never met him, but I do remember hearing that when I came to town.
So I started interviews, and it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, and the three that stand out are there's one guy that came in. He was a younger guy, probably in his 20s, and he's interviewing, and he has a handkerchief in his hand the whole time, which is strange to me, but whatever. And about halfway through an interview, his gums started bleeding. It was the weirdest thing you had ever seen, and he takes, like, he knew it was going to happen. He took the napkin, he wiped them off, and I'm like,
You can't make that shit up.
yeah, okay, and where did you go to school, and all this other stuff.
Little did he know that I punched the guy in the
Yeah,
mouth in the parking lot.
Yeah, it didn't affect his interview, but it was just like, man, how do you interview in that situation? But anyway,
Did he
so
lose tooth or something?
no, his whole entire gums, not a loose tooth, his whole entire gums started bleeding. And
I've never heard of that.
And I have never done interviews prior to this, so I'm thinking,
Oh, fantastic.
this can't be normal. Right? Or
Welcome to Human Resources.
yeah, I know. Like, people see this all the time.
This is the first I'm hearing of this story.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what
this
to
is
say.
true. This
Speechless.
is true. I couldn't make that up. And then another guy, the guy that we actually hired to begin with, was a very clean cut suit, all this other stuff, and it just kind of didn't fit the mold, in my opinion.
Because it's hard work doing promotions. You got to go.
But he just
Sometimes you
he
dress
was
up,
very
sometimes you
professional.
don't.
He's very professional, no doubt about that. And he had all of his shit in order and his resume and all this other stuff. So he came through, and then I remember Donny coming through. Donny had on a black shirt. I don't know, it was a V-neck or whatever it was. A gold chain, I think, or something. Not in a bad way.
Did he have brass knuckles on?
No.
He's from West Mifflin.
West Mifflin guy. What I thought we needed was somebody who had good knowledge of the city. And I don't remember the clean cut guy, whether he had knowledge of the city or not, but Donny, West Mifflin, grew up, born, raised here and everything. So he was my first choice. Management felt differently and decided to hire this other guy, this clean cut guy. So he was with us for...
I don't even remember pre-Donny.
He was
PD.
he was with us about a week and a half, and he started complaining because he was told he was going to be working in Pittsburgh, but he had to drive to Uniontown every day. He wasn't calling me; he was calling my boss, and my boss was like, "Yeah, this probably isn't going to work out. Who is your next choice?" I said, "Well, that guy wasn't my first choice to begin with. You chose him. I chose this guy, which was Donny." So, and then they let it up to me. It's like, well, if you think he's the one, he's the one. So that's how Donny got in, which, again, he was my first choice to begin with because we needed somebody who knew the city and understood traffic and everything.
I mean,
Tim come from a
Hired you
small...
for your
Yeah,
limo.
Tim came from a small town.
yeah, I didn't grow up here.
So I was able to get him around
Yes.
the city. I was able
Yeah.
to... I taught Tim Miller city living.
I learned more about Pittsburgh from Donny than anyone I ever could have because, and again, so beneficial once we started really hammering stuff and being involved in stuff in the city was You have to understand how things work here, and not just traffic flow and stuff like that, but the mentality, because we had a sales manager who wanted to do a promotion at a Hallmark store on a Steelers Sunday. And her reasoning was, well, women don't care about football. Well, in Pittsburgh,
not in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh, they do.
That's right.
Donny pointed out, he's like, look, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Women,
You will have
love,
crickets there.
Yeah.
Everyone watches the
And he
games.
was right. That it did not work out for us because, women care about
That's
as
right.
much about football in this town as anybody. And
The thing is, we became players with everybody. Like, there's nowhere I can go today that I don't have a connection. Pirates, Steelers, Penguins, Pavilion,
True.
Kennywood, Sandcastle, Idlewild.
Sandcastle was a thing for you guys. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that was
You
huge
always
for us.
come down
That
and
was
give me
huge for us.
Sandcastle.
Danger did a lot
tickets
of
all the
yeah,
Father's Days
he wore
there.
that banana hammock, and people came from miles to see him with his
Lines
thong
of people.
up his crack, and he's like, "Go
bana-
down the slide again, Danger."
When we had
They
Froggy
like the red
Banana
curly
Hammock
fries
Day.
next to it.
Yeah.
Banana hammock day was huge. That was huge. That was huge. That was huge.
Yeah, the red curly fries hanging out.
Listen,
That's awesome. Oh my god.
let's just
that.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
curly fries.
True story.
That's funny.
True story.
It's happened. But I mean, we were everywhere, and that's how you get in. I mean, it's literally. I remember being there, and it was like, what's the old saying? Guerrilla
marketing.
Guerrilla marketing.
Guerrilla marketing. That's what we did.
Oh yeah.
Thing is,
that was Gerald's thing.
We learned
Gerald
to just
gorilla.
act like we belonged wherever we were.
Yeah.
Like people,
Always.
like if you start looking around and you're doing something you shouldn't be, that's when if you're looking around and that's when someone says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, "Oh, don't worry, we're in here. We got to go here," and just
Always act like you belong.
And you remember all these people the last few years have been doing like hashtag hustle and hashtag the grind. We were doing that way before there was a hashtag in front of it.
Yeah, guerrilla marketing
Well
is
before.
I mean, it's the only way now. It's almost
You have to just be
Absolutely
determined to win.
one of the funniest,
You know?
one of the funniest things that happened to us when my first week that I got hired, we went down to Southside and we had the Nissan Xterra, and
I remember that thing.
Yeah.
I had a
I got pictures of that.
That was
Someone-
one of our,
someone-
that was
yellow.
one of
It
our
was
first
yellow.
vehicles.
So someone
it was yellow, right?
Someone came up to me and goes, "Oh, Frog, you guys just came along. Because do you have any bumper stickers?" Sure do. I gave this guy a stack of bumper stickers about this thick. I'm like, "Here you go. Give out some to your friends." So we go down to whatever bar we went to or whatever we were doing. I come back walking up the street with you. Every car had a bump. Whoever had got the stack of bumper stickers, they put one on every single car on Carson
remember
Street,
that.
I would kill
including a
somebody.
brand new Corvette.
I'd be killing
I was
somebody.
like, let's get the hell out of here. We're gonna get
Kind
killed.
of adhesive was on those things.
And there were times we would see cars out.
Oh, man.
I remember one time right here in
Damn.
Moon, there was a car that came by us. It was almost completely covered in Froggy bumper stickers.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Remember
wow.
at Kenny Chesney
Where'd they
one
get
year,
them from?
someone covered their car completely
Oh, yeah.
in
Yep.
Froggy bumper stickers
went.
to win something?
Did you guys used to do some kind of promotion where, like, if someone spotted the bumper sticker on a car, they would? There was
No.
some
We didn't
kind of-
actually do that. We did the Froggy payroll, which people would register for it, and we would call 4 names a day
Okay.
out on the
Yeah.
air.
Okay.
And then they would win cash, and they'd be registered to win. We gave away 3 Toby Keith autographed trucks. A red,
Yeah, we
white,
give
and
away
blue.
trucks.
3 Fords. I don't know why we had money problems, but we gave out $100,000 worth of cars and $250,000 in cash,
Yep.
That's fantastic.
and it was all local.
Yeah.
It was all local.
You couldn't do the bumper sticker thing because it's a liability and people chasing you down and stuff like that. Those old school promotions that used to play back. I don't
Those
know,
were like
70s
80s and 90s,
80s
yeah.
and 90s.
KDK used to do a big one.
Once liability became part of it, it was tough to. I mean, you couldn't do drinking and I mean, we did a lot of crazy
We would do O'Doul's chugging.
banana
remember?
eating contest and thong contest. What
Twister,
you could
boxing brides.
boxing brides. You could
wet
never
T-shirt concert or wet T-shirt
Frozen
contest?
T-shirt.
Frozen t-shirts.
Yeah, that was my specialty.
You can't. You'd never be able to do that kind of stuff today.
Hey, so
you would be in trouble.
my first 10 years, like 02 to 2012, and all 3 of us were in that. In the middle of that became cameras on everybody's phone, social media. So let's just say
Digital
the first
cameras
5
come out.
Yeah. The first 5 years, like 2002 to 2007, we did a lot of stuff that we're thankful there weren't cameras
Yes.
on.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Over the next 5 years, which Froggy was still ginormous, we started doing things that there are some YouTube videos out there of people playing Twister on Froggy Night at Saddle Ridge and stuff like that. I mean, those were some good times, but a little more wholesome. You know, Twister is, you know, it's
Could be.
And we had oversized boxing gloves, and we would dress.
that boxing
girls
rise
would get
is
dressed up
awesome.
in bride costumes, and they'd beat the shit out of
remember
each
that.
other
on stage at Saddle Ridge.
for like
remember
for tickets to the zoo.
Some of the shit that came out of your mouth, dude.
Oh, God.
My
The more he
God.
had-
we would be in jail right now.
Yeah.
The more the Danger would have at these events, and he carried a mic around with him, etc. And
Yeah.
I'd hear something, and I'd be all the way across the club. I'd be like,
I know that. I
like,
know that feeling.
come on, man! Like, stop it! Like, what?
That's another. Here's the thing with when we came into this market, country music was on a rise, and there were how many country bands, local country bands? I mean, the country music scene was as big as it had ever been in Pittsburgh, and you had the Clarks.
Well, when we started playing local bands on Froggy,
Yeah.
it just like
It blew up.
it's an expression, but it just poured gasoline on the fire.
Yeah,
God,
and we
so
ended up with the
huge.
hometown country.
Yep.
Leah headed that up with
Yeah, she would do the interviews with them.
Yep.
But we
And-
would do I just did the 20th anniversary of the 12 Bands of Christmas. Even 20 years ago, it was easy to fill 12 dates up with local bands. Now somebody joked to me the other day because I just finished it. They were like, dude, you had like 30 bands on for that. I was like, well, it's 12 Bands of Christmas and more.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to say no. You want to
Start
like
in October.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't discount the value of Saddle Ridge and what was the one?
Rhythm House?
Rhythm House. Poverty
Wild
Hillbillies
Horse.
and Rhythm
What
House.
was it? Wild Horse or
Whatever the
Crazy
one was.
Horse.
Crazy Horse in
Whatever it was
Bridgeville.
in Bridgeville.
Listen, those were the right time, right place at the right time kind of venues where country music people could go. Now, Crazy Horse was
Did you do
Bridgeville.
RPMs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
we did a couple. We did a couple there. Actually, what it's set up is now is
You remember that
we
night?
gave-
No, I forgot.
we gave
do tell.
them that marketing plan.
No.
RPMs. we had a night there.
I don't know.
Hey, after RPMs one night, because I used to be really
I just
blue
laughed.
on the microphone.
I walked out.
I did not know that.
And our boss at the time, Frank Bell, called me in one day. He goes, Danger, I got a complaint. Do you use a lot of foul language on the microphones at bars? And I remember pausing for a minute after he asked the question. I was like, if I lie right now, all he has to do is call one of like 5,000 people and they'll tell him different. So I took a pause and I just told him the truth. I went, yeah, every time. When I'm in a bar and it's 21 up, yes, I do a show that is adult oriented.
For sure.
And then I just paused and he looked at me and went, oh. So like telling the truth a lot of times is just the best way. He goes, well, you should probably think about that. He goes, because people are starting to have cameras on their phones. And he goes, imagine if Ryan Seacrest was on the microphone going, hey, does anybody do anal in this bar?
All right. It's out there. It's out there. Yes. At RPM. That happened at a bar. He got up on the stage. And he's, we're having a good time. We've been there for a couple hours. The sales rep that was there got carried out of the place about an hour before this happened because she was hammered. And
Wait, she actually doing anal there?
no. She was just
Nothing we're aware
drunk.
of.
He gets up on stage, and I just remember there's a table of older women saying they're 60s.
Were
or
they
so.
doing anal?
No, nobody actually
Not that
did
we're aware of.
anal.
To our knowledge.
But he got up on stage and he's like, "Yeah, we're having a good time. Does anybody out there do anal?" And I walked out the door. I left. I was like, "Yep, see you later. I'm out," because I know on Monday they're gonna ask me if I saw this. So I was like, "Nope." I had left before that ever
I
happened.
remember you two guys, though, back then, you'd be like, yeah, we've seen this show before.
But that kind of stuff works in that kind of venue. Listen, I never second guess his decisions.
He could read the room, right?
because he can read a room, and it wasn't I didn't feel that it was wrong, and I didn't feel it was overboard. But there are other people.
People
that
always were.
like,
I always did it to try to like get people's attention.
Yeah,
it was
and
like a
it's
shock,
hilarious.
you know, and have some fun. Get you. You're out on a Friday or Saturday night trying to have fun. We're in a room full of adults. You know what I mean? We're all over 21.
And one
also were a
DJ
single band
child.
at that time, too.
Yes, but Frank Bell's advice, and I think but Frank's advice, our boss at the time, was good advice.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
no,
I-
and
He always looked out for the
Frank
best.
Bell. That's Frank
here's
Bell,
the thing.
man.
Have you ever seen 5 hot women on a stage trying to eat a banana to win a contest? It's pretty awesome.
have.
Man. It's pretty awesome. Quite honest.
Especially when you get to be the judge.
Yes, and that was my job. I'm taking pictures like a crazy person because nobody's gonna believe
Donny,
it.
is it gone yet? Is it gone yet?
Can't put them on the website, but
This
I want
one here's
some
got
kind
a
of
real
record of it.
mouthful.
Yeah, yep, yeah. Oh my god.
we did that.
Yep. Oh,
That was a good show.
That's probably. I don't know. Probably
It's just banana eating. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. It's
Everyone
protein.
does it.
yeah. But anyways, again, back
That's
to
not
back to the
protein.
venues.
Or fiber or
The-
something. I don't
That's
know.
a fiber, maybe.
The high water mark
Part of the fruit and vegetables department.
the high water mark for country music was 2000 what? I mean, once the Hillbillies broke up,
2000.
That's a tough question.
Eight.
I mean, it peaked at a point.
I think it's actually.
dropped off.
8 to 10.
I think it's actually
Georgia Line
closer
come
to when you were leaving.
Yeah.
It
Because
was
in
before.
the
It
mid-
was a little before that, but yeah. I mean,
it was up there for a long
The
time.
mid
I mean, just
2010s, when they were just putting like 20 shows
it's
out of Star Lake in the
nuts.
summer, the amount of people they were pushing through the turnstiles to go to a show
Yep.
was ridiculous.
and then in the weekends between those shows, the local country acts. I mean, a dozen, 24 bands here local.
Oh well,
I mean,
for
it was-
local music, for hometown, for people in the city, I agree. It was late.
We were able to call someone at any time, and we
Yeah.
were able
Yep.
to create
Never had a
marketing
problem.
around it. Like, hey, we'll bring this band in, and they would do a set, and then we'd have our music playing in between, or
you know.
have a DJ there. So I mean,
Well, the Poverty Net Hillbillies were a band here in town. We did shows at
Absolutely.
at Station Square where they sold 5,000 tickets. So
Yeah,
in
that
the-
was a huge show.
Yeah,
that
2006 to 2008, they were something like. I'll give an example. Gabby Barrett, huge star now, went way further than the Poverty Net Hillbillies ever did. But she never sold that many
No.
tickets locally.
No,
you know
no,
what I mean? They were
No.
a different thing.
But it's
you
crazy
know?
seeing crazy seeing things grow to what they are. Like we had Gabby at Kennywood for Country Christmas, and it was like 4 degrees outside, and you had like 10 people watching.
Yeah, it's
Danger
brutal.
come rolling up in a fleece, no gloves. I'm like, what are you doing?
That was one of our best. Hey, Tim, it was right after you'd left. He left in 2014, by the way. I don't know if it was
May.
2016. We had Vanessa Campagna, the Hobbs sisters, Gabby Barrett, and what's April Fisher's daughter? Abby L. We had 4 super talented females, and it was literally single digits, and the show was outside at Kennywood. It was so brutal. I think Blaze told me Gabby, when she got home, almost had to go to the hospital because it was like you're standing out in 4-degree temperature.
Well, I got to move to indoors the following year.
We almost
I was like, listen.
we almost died last
I
year.
talked to Kennywood's marketing. I'm like, listen, I'll bring you these artists, and we'll have a great event. We always had great events at Kennywood.
Oh yeah,
They love
and
us.
I love Kennywood, and the holiday lights are beautiful. But when it's single, imagine last weekend when it was like -4,
That's what it was.
and you're just standing outside playing music, for 2 hours.
It was awful.
How do you do that?
It was awful.
That's when they invented lip syncing.
We did it, Eric.
let me just say, God bless Vanessa Campagna. I worked with her when she was 12 years old, 13 years old, to where she is now,
Yeah.
and
She was a star then, though.
a testament to
Beaver County.
hard work and
Still trying to get you on the show, Vanessa. Just put it out there.
There you go. You need to get in here, Vanessa. You
I'll call her
definitely
dad
do.
and see if we can get her.
Malls, and I worked with her, oh my God, at least 50 times in my time at Froggy. And it didn't matter where she was at or what she was doing. She always just 1,000%.
We had her down at PNC Park for
Oh my
Jason
God,
Aldean.
just whatever. She
We had her
did
and,
Christmas
Tyler
shows at
Farr.
the mall. She did Christmas shows at the mall. And, you
Beaver
had
Valley
30,
Mall.
40 people. And it was no different. There'd have been 1,000 people.
So I'll tell you a Vanessa Campagna story. I just had her on last week for the 12 Bands of Christmas and 20th anniversary. And when she first came into the Froggy Studio, she was 11 years old.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I worked with her when she was young.
And I have an 11-year-old daughter now. And I was like, I remember I met you out. You were 11, Vanessa, and I have an 11-year-old daughter. And she goes, Danger, when I met you and I was 11, she goes, I was doing 50 shows a year.
Yeah.
Her dad, I give her dad credit.
Yeah, God bless Frank too, man.
Frank was trucking her around everywhere, and
It's like I'm thinking of my daughter.
Manager.
They knew that she had a good talent.
Loading
Vanessa was always a sweet girl.
She reminded me she was on Star Search
Yes.
when she was like 8 or 9
Yes.
or something. Like there's people around here, and if there's anything Froggy did was help shine a flashlight on people like her that had extraordinary talent. And that even as we speak this, she's probably in her late 20s now. She could still become a huge
She's gotta be 30
national
now.
star.
She's got to be 30 by now.
She's 24. I've seen her picture.
Yeah, she's young.
24.
No
Did
way.
you just go on tour with the Christian singer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
she's
Michael W.
Mike-
Smith. They had a number one hit together.
Busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
That's what I thought I saw.
Yeah. I root for her all the time.
Oh, me too.
I root for her nonstop.
I root for all of them then.
Yep.
I remember somebody came into the Boogie Street office one afternoon, one late morning actually, and said, "The Danger wanted to know if you could walk down and see him." And I'm like, "You mean the redheaded guy?" I think you had.
That's me.
I think I've been
Either that
introduced
was
to you a
bright
couple
blonde
times.
at the time
I know, I
when
think
he
I've been
bleached it.
introduced to you a couple
That
times, but
weirdo.
not. No, I mean like the DJ. Yeah, he wants to give you an opportunity to do something. I'm like, do something? Like, what are you talking about? Anyways, I walked down there. I think I came and got you or someone. You walked, and you knew we were in on it. You walked me down, and we waited till you got a break, and you said, "Hey, the so-and-so from the so-and-so dealership can't come in today, and I need a judge for the Froggy Idol. Would you want to do this?" Now, I had no idea what American Idol was because I didn't watch television, and I didn't even know what you were doing. But once it was explained to me, I'm like, sure, I'll go on the radio and be critical of people. Why?
It was like a warm up to social media.
Good.
Do you remember what he did? So he came in. He was like,
I was paired with
who were you paired with? I don't remember. Was it John Hayes from the
multiple
Post-Gazette?
times, but the first time was the gentleman from the band in Washington, PA.
Devin from Rough Creek.
Devin
Okay.
from Rough Creek, yeah.
Oh, I
that was the
remember.
first time.
So most people get on the radio and they don't want to be mean to people like me.
I do.
Yeah.
She's just not trashing people.
Oh yeah, he trashed people.
Really?
He did.
Because Devin wasn't going to.
Yeah.
Simon Cowell.
I loved it. He was the bad guy. So
My ears are bleeding.
yeah, you were like, oh, I'm never gonna, you should never
People
sing
walking
again.
up cry.
I asked that one
Yeah.
girl, what do you do for a living? And she said it, whatever she said, and I said, you might want to keep that.
And it does hurt. It does hurt. Yeah.
Because the thing is, I really would never be listening. I'd be running around and
Yeah.
everything, like I'd catch things while we were in the car or whatever. But I didn't realize you were trashing people. That's awesome.
I don't remember that either. I sat in I got called into the studio one time with you because somebody canceled out, and there was a guy who sang, and
Do you and I do it together?
yeah, you were in there.
Okay.
You were the good guy.
I probably was.
I was definitely.
Okay, yeah.
I was definitely.
I think I was
turned
on
a
my
new
best
page.
beat. Well,
And-
I consider you guys management, so
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
No. He was definitely singing someplace with an echo. So I was like, "Well, where are you singing at?" He's like, "Well, I'm in the bathroom." I'm like, "Go over and flush the toilet."
I remember.
Go over and flush the toilet. He flushed the toilet. I'm like, "Yeah, that's where your career's headed, pal." Which is, again, I'm just trying to be funny. I don't have any
Ill will.
animosity towards anybody.
No,
he
it's
he
a
sings
show,
better
right?
than I do.
It's a show, right?
But we're trying to keep it,
Yeah.
funny and
We entertained.
And
Well,
I
these
hope he's
guys
not
are
listening.
characters.
He's going to come find me and.
It's
bash
funny
his
that
guitar.
I'm on air because like when I came here and I started to get to know these two right here, I immediately knew they're characters, man. They're funny dudes. These dudes will crack you up all day long.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. I don't know. Donnie's got the Yinzer funny. He's got like, I'll bang your mom funny jokes,
Down on his luck, Donald.
If you say something funny, I will take it and maybe cross the line or just.
Oh, you don't
I jump that line, skip rope with that line pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Just to see the reaction. It's not about being rude or crude to people, but can I get a laugh out of it?
Take it up a notch.
Yeah, can I get a laugh out of it? And
I just
he'll
think it's
tell
funny
you.
when I took the job, though, a guy warned me that, he may want to bang my mom or my wife, and he was pretty serious about it. I was like, I don't even know the guy yet. He doesn't know my mother or my wife.
Yeah, I did.
Well, the thing is too, though, but all through this entire process, we made some great connections with Eric at Boogie Street too.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of guitars going around.
A lot of
back
guitars.
In the day. A lot of big stars signing those guitars.
You guys gave me a hell of a deal in the beginning because I didn't have any internet when I moved in. I was on a shoestring budget, and then I got a quote for like hundreds of dollars per month to have internet back in 2003.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I remember Gerald was in the hallway talking to my father, and I said, Mr. Getz, I said, do you have any suggestions as to who I could call to, He just said he basically walked. He said, "Come with me," and he walked down to like the IT area.
Rob
got
Baxter.
Rob, and said, "Rob, this is Eric. Get a line over there and let him piggyback on our internet." And I said, "What can I do for you?" He goes, "Oh, well, we need some guitars to sign.
Yeah.
Can you get us something?" So I'm like, "Well, I thought I had to give you guys these like really $300-400 guitars." And Tim comes and goes, "They got something up there for like $99."
Whatever piece of shit you got, we'll take it because we're just getting them
I remember
autographed.
you thought I was going to give you like 3 or 4 of them. And I remember that Washington sent 24 of these things in, and you had no place to put them. You're like, I can't put 24 guitars. Well, there they are. They're in the hallway. You can have them. And
Eric was
where am I
always
gonna
good
put
about
them?
that.
I don't know what to put them.
And that's the thing.
They were white, I think.
We
too,
had a
which is
whole
strange.
room full of
Yeah, we did that for a
At
couple.
one time,
every
we
year
had
did that.
75 signed guitars. in
No,
a
we
room.
had 300.
Oh, all right. Well,
Tim, I
We had
didn't give you
300.
I didn't give you all those.
you remember you walked in?
No, we
it went in a
worked
U
deals.
shape.
in that break room.
Or no,
the
the
back-
room.
the back-
All the way at the end of the
They
hallway.
went in a U shape.
Yep.
All the way around, and there was a shelf built.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
there was
I
the
remember.
whole top layer. They went all the way around.
Yeah, I remember.
And then we did them down the bottom because they were all in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
And Tim would make me rearrange these damn things. The
that
military and
came
Tim
from the management.
That
came from management.
He was a ball buster, man. He'd be like, rearrange these 300 guitars. I'm like,
That came from management. Walked down there like, what's going on down here? I'm like, I don't know. It's the guitar. Alphabetize and whatever.
Then we'd have a list of them, and then
I had bigger fish to fry.
right.
Get down there and fix that.
Tim took care of me though, because I was a youngster in my 20s. So there'd be nights that I'd come home at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd come into work at 8 o'clock, and Tim'd be like, "Jesus, dude." He had a little
Junior mints.
Boy Scout junior mints. He'd be like, "Go take 2 junior mints and go sleep in the back for a little bit."
That's
True
funny.
story, man. True story.
But your story, Eric, is a great story of something I learned in this business. And it took me a while to learn it because, I think we're inherently, in life sometimes we're all about just take. But you were an example of you got to give and take, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like Gerald came down and gave, and you gave back. And that's what
Absolutely.
keeps the circle of life going right there.
Well, Eric and I became friends. His children, they would always be at the vending machines
He
right
fed them
across
for
my
years.
I remember Austin running down the hall when he was like, tall, man.
But I mean, Eric would just come in and talk and whatnot. So I wanted him to succeed as much as possible.
Yeah.
So anytime I knew someone was coming into the building big, I'd be like, "Hey,
Toby Keith's going to be here later.
you might have a chance for this."
Taylor Swift's going to be
Chesney,
here. Yeah.
Taylor
Yep,
Swift,
Chesney came, yep.
Yep.
Dolly Parton,
Leanne Rhymes is the one I couldn't.
Leanne
think
Rhymes.
of
I
the
know.
other show.
I found
I
that
had a
out.
thing for Leanne Rhymes.
Yes.
Like,
Remember she
no
came in
one's
with her
business,
first
man.
husband. She
Yeah.
came in.
she's dirty.
He
They
fell
were
in love.
super cool, yeah.
Eric fell in love with Leanne Rhymes.
Hey,
I remember
Leanne
the
Rhymes.
smell of that perfume, man. I just never forget that smell.
Leanne Rhymes is a great example. Leanne Rhymes, her first number one hit was in 1996.
Yep. Long
1996. Do you know how old she turned just about a month ago?
Probably
30.
40.
Yeah.
40. She did turn 40.
She just turned 40.
I knew she was
real
young, man.
I know
Like,
that.
she was 13 years old when she had her first hit song.
So I kind of like was mesmerized by her. In 1999, she did when DirecTV was like having these monthly concerts.
In 1999, she was like 16.
Well, let's just say 17 for the record.
You're going to be always like, wait, you just ruined my story.
But there was an acoustic
17
thing
and a
that
half.
her and her band did, like these like real exotic spa. They were just sitting around like this.
Almost 18.
Yeah, whatever. But she should have been on television. I don't know, what can I say? But it was 99. It was DirecTV had those monthly concerts, and they had Leanne Rhymes. I'm like, who the hell is that? Yeah. And then fast forward a couple years, she's singing country music now, and there she is. Why is country music such a big thing in Pittsburgh? Because when you look at the demographic of Pittsburgh, outside looking in. I'm not saying we look at ourselves. I'm saying other people looking into Pittsburgh. I don't think they think we're Smoky Milltown anymore. But at the same time, we're not really part of the Midwest. I think people generally consider us still part of the East. Maybe the furthest western part of the East. It doesn't really scream country music to an outsider looking in.
Blue collar.
So
hey, I'll jump in here.
Why does it resonate in this town?
A guy from Tennessee that moved here, and I thought there's no way in hell this town's going to be a country music town. Yep. Here's my observation. You guys are Pennsylvania guys. When I came here in Tennessee, where country music, where I grew up, was the thing. A lot of times the cool kids, to be different, would listen to like alternative music or rap or
anything different.
Yeah. And when I came here, the first thing I noticed was, to be different, cool kids were listening to country music. That was an early observation.
That's interesting.
No,
That's
that makes
when I
sense.
started, I hated it.
Rock dominated.
It makes
Pittsburgh.
perfect sense. Like when Donny started, you definitely didn't listen to country.
Not at all.
He fell in love with it, and I remember him telling me,
took a couple years.
I get it now. I get it.
Absolutely.
It's clean. It is good.
They root for each other.
Country music is different than
melodic.
it was.
It's melodic, so it's easier, I think, for the average listener to rectify in their head.
The message typically is clear cut, and it's relatable to pretty much anyone, no matter where you come from. And it's redemption. Frank Bell told me this one time. It's about redemption.
Yeah,
you can be an imperfect person, but you can still finish good when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
the formula.
And that's the truth. And the thing is, like, you look at Pittsburgh itself, the majority, I think, in my opinion, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, our listeners don't live typically in the city. They live in the outskirts.
Suburbs.
You know what I mean? The suburbs. They are blue-collar people. They live like a lot of these songs that are written. Country changed a lot from what it was before Garth Brooks and Shania Twain. Changed a lot, in my opinion.
I think the crossover happened as well.
There's no doubt the crossover helped. They made it more cool, and the cooler it got, then some teenagers listening to Kenny Chesney or Toby Keith or whoever, and then it became cool to, hey, I like that too. So now everybody's like, yeah, next thing you know, everybody's country. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it got huge in Pittsburgh, even with the local country bands. It just, there was no, and nothing against rock and roll. I grew up on rock and roll, but it just became this whole other thing. And it seemed like the whole entire region just was countrified at that point.
And you got to remember, the Pittsburgh metropolitan area has 2 million people.
Yep.
But only 300,000 actually live in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yes,
sure.
So there's 1.7 million people that are either in the suburbs or out in the country.
Well, it became having genres in its own genre.
Yep.
True.
I mean,
he's right.
The boy bands, the
hippies, like Zach Brown was like the Dave Matthews of our format.
That took a while, right? That's more of a phenomenon in the 2010s, maybe?
Not necessarily. Like Eric.
Yeah, Florida Georgia Line was pop. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It was like they were on with Nelly. Cruise was the largest downloaded song or streamed song in history by millions. Like
Florida Georgia Line. Eric Church was like the rock. Yeah,
yep, absolutely.
Zach Brown was like the Dave Matthews.
Aldine had more of a rock.
I'd give you credit. That's like the last 10 years, though, I think. Mm-hmm. Kenny Chesney, though, when you were here, that was like the Jimmy Buffett of our format.
He's the party.
He took over. I'm not saying he took over where Jimmy Buffett left off, because Jimmy Buffett was still doing his thing. But that became this juggernaut of a show.
An event.
And it seemed like it didn't even matter whether you actually made it into the show. It was just being in the parking lot.
Or if you remember the show.
And drinking your face off and passing out in the parking lot.
But Eric, what he's telling is true.
Oh, it's 100%.
The year that the whole trash thing happened on the North Shore, there were 50,000 tickets sold for Kenny Chesney. But they estimated like 150,000 people were tailgating.
They didn't prepare.
Like 100,000 people weren't even going to the show. They were just there because
it's an event. It's a complete event. And the thing was, that's when they were open the parking lots at 7 a.m.
Oh,
which was a disaster.
We had to be there.
Tim and I would be standing there. We would be set up ready, and you'd see.
If you're puking at 10 a.m. and Chesney doesn't go until 9 p.m.,
little Johnny Hero get out of his truck with a handle.
Oh my God, we saw that.
Like he ain't,
so many times.
Like he ain't making it. He ain't making it.
It smells
He ain't
like
making
pee.
lunch.
It smells like pee. The next day, we'd have to go down there to clean up our banners and stuff, and you could smell the pee before you even made it.
The whole
down to
North
the
Shore
side.
just smelled like
North
piss.
Shore. It was and again, they fixed that as
The
they
city
went.
learned.
They
The city
fixed that
learned
as
as
they
well.
went. Yeah, they didn't know that first year, but they
First
kinda,
couple.
Yeah,
What were they
It took them a
thinking?
year.
Because we did so.
They didn't know what that was like. I mean, the
Nope.
thing was, like, they didn't have enough
No idea.
porta-johns. You know, people were trying to get into restaurants and
Yeah.
everywhere else, and then next you know, they're just pissing in the parking lots.
Wherever.
Yeah.
And then there wasn't dumpsters, and they weren't giving out trash bags.
Yep.
And
So for the first 10 years
Oh.
of stadium shows, because Chesney, I think his first stadium show was
5.
like 05.
Yeah.
5.
So until the debacles that happened in the mid-teens, like 14, 15, they would open those parking lots at 8 a.m. for people.
Right.
And someone thought, if you let them get there early, that'll make the traffic.
They won't drink as much.
It'll make the traffic less. But then they realized people are already vomiting at 11 a.m. It's probably not.
it was bad, man.
Oh yeah.
And Chesney takes the stage at 9 p.m.
We were always set up at Gate A, and so there was they would let people in right next
That was
to
the
us.
open end of the stadium.
And we would see people, and I just remember, like, you come here, give your friend a water here. Seriously, they're not.
It's noon.
They're not gonna. They're not gonna let them in. They're not
So,
gonna let them in.
In 16, which I think was the year after the debacle, the public debacle, when he came back that year.
Do you remember we were in Mayor Peduto's office?
Yeah.
He
green at Aldine.
He did a thing where for Jason Aldean playing at PNC Park, we were going to distribute all these garbage bags in conjunction with them
pretty smart.
also restricting the parking time,
Yeah.
and that was really the key.
Yeah.
I partnered up
for
with
sure.
Waste Management for
Yeah,
that and
yeah.
got them to give us
Yep.
like 5,000 bags.
And Donny calls the mayor of Pittsburgh at the time, Peduto, which
Yeah.
I had never met him. He had just been elected. And we went and broadcast from his office. I did my entire show from the mayor's office. Remember he was showing us all the back rooms?
That's classified.
It's fucking
now
Pittsburgh.
you're
Come
on here
now.
running your mouth.
All right.
Get
there you go, guys.
Get us
There you
into
go.
shit. Don't get us into no shit.
Now I know things.
No, but he showed us some things that we probably shouldn't have seen. I think he was just excited about it. He was just getting in office. And he showed us some pretty interesting things.
Yeah, he
and,
took us all around.
and,
Is that where they keep the Monongahela alien?
Yes.
well, what I did was I had certificates created. It was a certificate for going green at Aldine. And as a reward, we went around the parking lots.
That's catchy.
And it was an award, like the paper
rhymes.
awards were signed by the mayor. And then you were going to be able to take them back as we gave you backstage passes.
Yeah, we sent
to get
people
them
backstage.
signed by the artists. And then
Okay.
you would have a keepsake that basically.
That was a great promotion. There were billboards around town.
I got Lamar to give us free billboards with it.
That was a
The
home
other
run,
station
buddy.
freaked out.
Yes.
Well,
I destroyed them at that show. I loved it.
you told somebody that I don't know how I got this photo pass, or one of yins. I ended up with the photo pass,
yeah.
and I
Which show was that?
That would have came
It-
from
it-
us.
it-
That would have came from either me or Tim.
It was 2016. It was Chesney.
I wasn't-
did a couple.
I
I did
wasn't
an
there.
Aldine show.
Okay. It's Donny.
I did an
was
Aldine
gone.
show at Star Lake, and I
Yes,
did
I would've
and
got
I did
that.
the Chesney show at the stadium,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was an odd time because two observations. The first, when I went in there to shoot, I had to climb up on these. Look, I'm terrified of heights, but they would walk us in and out constantly. I couldn't see the show. I had to sit like in the Steelers front office there and wait it out.
Right.
But then I could walk in for the first couple songs,
Usually
and
the
they would
first
put
three.
us on this rigging in the center, and then the photographer perches were like 3 or 4 of them were built, and you had to climb the little stairs and stand on this little pedestal above the crowd on the infield. And I'm like, now I'm gorked, right? I wasn't drinking, but I was like, holy shit. But what was amazing was I started peering around in there, looking around, the amount of people that were drunk out of their fucking minds was unbelievable. That I started taking pictures of drunk people. I didn't give you the folks those, but I got shit tons of people blasted
Well, the thing
out of
was,
their
I
minds.
knew Eric. I knew Eric was good at photography. We had probably three 3 or 4 different photographers that we used over the years.
Josh Walker.
And Josh Walker.
And then, Josh Walker passed out.
I don't think Joshua could make it. I
Passed
think that's
out
how I
in
ended
the
up
pit.
getting it.
Yeah,
Joshua couldn't make it.
You know him?
I cut Josh off that year because we told him to drink water, and
he's an animal.
He was a worker.
Josh Walker's an animal. Shout out to Josh Walker, man.
But he'd be out there with his towel, and he would wear jeans. He would refuse to wear pants, and it's like 110 degrees, and he's down in the pit getting pictures. Next thing you know, he goes
took him to the hospital.
Jesus, man.
That was pretty. That was hot that day too.
Sure,
it's always hot.
But the other thing I want to tell you that really kind of pissed me off, what I didn't know was part of the gig, was that, and maybe you didn't even know I had to do this, or maybe I didn't have to do this, but I was just co-opted to do it. You had a morning show there at the time, and we won't talk about who's in the morning show and all that stuff. I don't want to call anybody out, but I was grabbed by the male morning show guest, and I had to follow him around away up through. He was going to parking lots looking for stories, and he was literally running through these parking lots. And I got this big long lens, I wasn't planning on running through and I was supposed to take photographs there, but I didn't have a lens that could enable me to take a photograph close range. I had this long 300 millimeter telephoto lens. He didn't seem to quite understand that.
No,
and he was bossing me around like I was an employee. And finally, I said, "Dude, I'm out of breath. I'm like 500 yards from the. I said, I'm out. I said, you got a problem? I said, talk to Donny fast.
Yeah.
That's what I did. Because it was unbelievable.
Sounds like a jag-off
by
for
our
me.
setup. All I wanted was a couple of pictures by our setup, and then the pictures in the show. Because
do you remember him taking me off?
I don't remember.
We went into the parking lot of
I said,
and then up on the hill there was other off-site parking,
right.
And he found the truck bed that was turned into a water thing, and I said, I can't take any photos. I don't have a lens to do that unless I stand on the other side of the street.
That's a guy that doesn't understand how we work. I mean, right? I mean, I
nuts.
wasn't there, but Donny came up through the ranks. He knows. That's just somebody who just doesn't get it the way that we have always done it.
There was a live thing going on, like I guess with their phones.
Whatever, it's silly.
Yeah, I mean, you could just do that with your phone. There's no reason to make you run around with your 30-foot.
I thought it was ridiculous. It was totally ridiculous.
He was out of ideas at that point. Is what it came down to. So he's like, well, let me drag this guy into my problem, and maybe he'll figure it out for me. That's exactly what happened.
Once we were into the parking lot,
I guarantee Donny did not approve that.
Well, we were into the parking lot.
Absolutely not.
It was a flipping zoo.
Yeah,
I couldn't find them, and they were like, it was just. It kind of like put a damper on the day, but I will tell you, the amount of drunks in that parking lot, it was comical.
That's every year.
But the photos came out. I mean, I was real proud of those photos. It was a really...
No, it was a good opportunity.
I thought it was... Yeah, because I had done a lot of rock shows.
Sure.
This is the first country show I shot. Then consequently, like a couple months later, we did Aldine. Those came out great. I think Florida Georgia lined up for them.
Was that the Aldine at PNC Park, or was it at the Pavilion?
Pavilion. And, and Florida Georgia lined open for them, and I can't remember the other band.
Yeah, because we had Florida Georgia Line opening up for Aldine and Miranda Lambert.
That's who it was. No, she was, I think, with Chesney, right?
No.
She has
been on for a year.
1 year she was.
But PNC Park, we had it was Jason Aldean, Miranda Lambert, Florida Georgia Line, and was it Tyler Farr?
I can't remember who the fourth.
We had Tyler Farr on our stage, but I think he was performing there.
I'll tell you, that Chesney show, I think it was that 1 year I was at Chesney, and I was running like somebody. I had to go backstage
because you were late.
Yeah, you were in the parking lot, and you were supposed to.
I was like backstage, and then I had to run across to something I don't know where I was going, but I was running from one place to the other, and I remember Tom Rooney was standing next to Dan.
That was 16.
It was at 16.
Yeah,
Did I tell you the story? And Tom Rooney goes, Danger, come here. And I'm like, I'm running, and I had to be somewhere. And I come over, and Dan Rooney was standing there next to him. And he goes, Dan, this is Danger. He's the hardest working DJ in Pittsburgh. He goes, there ain't no tread on them shoes. And I literally...
Dan said that.
Tom did. And I shook Dan Rooney's hand, and then I literally just sprinted away. So I lived up to that. I was like... And I was like, that was a cool moment because he said that I was the hardest working guy. Then I had to sprint away because I had to be somewhere like 30 seconds ago.
I was at 2016. I remember it. Yeah, I mean, that was a long day. I just thought it was strange that I wasn't allowed to watch any of the acts. I had to sit I had to sit in the Steelers' offices
That's silly.
That's
with
the
another
business.
photographer that was not part of your.
That's the business.
That's
how it works.
Yep,
that's how it
It's
works.
just so strange.
You're there to do a job.
But Aldine, I could do. Out at the Star Lake, I was able to watch the Aldine
Yeah.
show.
Sure,
I got 3 songs.
It's
in
a
the
little
pit.
bit. It's less.
Those are different.
And then you.
them stadium shows are very
You know what?
regimented.
I had 3 songs in the pit, and then I found you, and I said, "Hey, am I allowed to?" Because I had the extra lenses. Can I shoot from the back? He goes, "Dude, just." Anybody says anything, just say you're with us. Here's a laminate, just do it. And I remember I shot a bunch of stuff all through the
I'd rather beg for
that
forgiveness.
first 2 sections of seating there. I shot all kinds of stuff. From
Didn't I take you up to the soundboard?
Maybe later, toward the end of the night, you did. And I
Okay.
stood there, yeah. But I remember like going down the aisles, and of course the ushers were like, "You can't do this." I'm like, "Well, you know,
Yeah, you
I'm
can.
doing
Hey, I
it."
have a question for you, Eric.
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
it was a great time.
So we've known you for a long time. Obviously, we know you. Do custom guitars. You do real estate.
Did.
What's your attraction to photography? Because when you were wanting to do that, I think we were all a little surprised that Eric McKenna wanted to do photography.
Yeah.
Obviously, for you to do all that and put up with all that, you must have some sort of passion for
Yeah, I
it.
dug it. Yeah, I bought I did it as a kid, then I got away from it, and then 2007, digital became a thing, and
Well, I always
digital
saw you with your
SLR
doing your guitars
for my kids.
That's why I asked
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
Like
because-
I knew he always had pictures of his kids,
Yeah.
and he.
hobby. It was a hobby, but then getting to do some Kiss shows was a thrill. Like, holy shit! I mean, I'm like sitting in the pit with real photographers.
People
and
would
then
pay
I
tens of
just
thousands of
enjoyed it.
dollars
And
for
then I
that.
remember I think I was showing you guys shots of the Kiss stuff, and then, Donny, like you said, you're still shooting. I'm like, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah, but you are a real photographer now.
I don't know what that means. I don't get paid for it. I don't want to get paid for it. But
It's like when he
he's
started-
good at it. He knows what he's doing.
I'm a involved amateur.
I let him put his watermark on anything he wanted. I paid him.
Yeah,
big
and I
time.
never. And it's funny. I've never sold any of my prints. Like I have tons and tons of Kiss stuff. So maybe down the line someday that stuff might resurface again. But I've never sold any of my stuff. The band used a lot of my stuff, and I figured if they're going to give me access, they can use all the. I gave the band everything. They can have everything. Some of those photos on the wall are some of my stuff.
What's the one back here behind you here of the Kiss face? Is that you?
No, that's from the 70s.
That's not a Kiss
Okay.
The
face.
famous. But
Well,
there's
there's somebody
two-
with the Kiss
There's 2
paint
behind
thing.
you though. The one with Paul Stanley without the makeup, and then the one with Gene and Paul. That's from 2010. I shot those. So.
Big Kiss fan over here, by the way.
He
Grew
is a
up
big-
on it
yeah,
and
he is a
stuff.
big
and
Kiss fan.
I can't believe Gene Simmons didn't give you any kind of shekels for what you
Yeah,
do.
Gene, I didn't have any relationship with him. It was all. You had to go one camp or the
No,
other.
I get it.
You either on Gene's
No,
team
no,
or
I
you're on
understand.
Paul's team, and you got to pick
100%.
your side, and whoever paid.
Isn't that funny?
I understand the
Yeah,
marketing.
the egos
yeah.
or something. I mean, that's like I just wonder all the maneuvers that all 3 of you did, but especially you, with all the interviews you've done and all the prep work for personalities and dipping and weaving and trying to know a little bit about the backstory so you don't offend somebody. Like, it just seems like a fucking lot of work, because I just had this little glimpse of these 2 dynamic personalities that appear to the public to be like blood brothers, and then you would peek behind it and they weren't fighting publicly, but their camps were so separated
could
that I was
tell.
told by staff, look, because Gene Simmons
You can
inquired
tell.
about like getting guitars made at this factory, and did I have an in, and had somebody come to me and ask me that, and I had to make a decision. If I offered up that information, I may piss off the other side.
Yeah, right.
And everything I have going on, so I graciously bowed out of that, which was probably a smart thing to do.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But
You're
they're also
100%.
those egos are just, and I'm not. It isn't a degrading comment, but I just think maneuvering that on a regular basis.
It's almost like cheating on your girlfriend
it's
or
tough.
something. Like if
gotta
you
tread
would,
lightly.
yeah.
Wait,
if
what?
you were making guitars for Paul Stanley, and I don't know
I was
those
part
guys
of
at
it.
all.
Yeah, part of the
But if
process,
Gene
yeah.
Simmons, you made him one in their mind, it's
100%.
almost like, oh, my girlfriend's cheating on me. I got to get a new girlfriend.
Yeah,
You know?
loyalty was the big thing. And again, all I was
You know
doing
what
was
I'm
going to
saying?
pass information.
Oh, Gene Simmons.
I know
is-
what you're saying. I
Gene
hear ya.
Simmons is getting some of my
Yeah.
pudding.
Well, this
man.
guy right here, man.
That's it. I ain't
one
heard that in
sounds
years.
Hey,
You mess with my pudding?
while we're talking about offending artists, let's do some Nashville stuff here with Jeremy in his interviews.
So wait, before you say
It
this,
seems like a lot of work.
when I was on the radio in Memphis in my early 20s, Howard Stern was a big thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool to ask these artists when I would have them on the radio the question that they didn't want to be asked.
Obviously.
And I started to learn that it got me great results locally. I would go out and people were like, oh, I heard you ask Tim McGraw that question. Oh. But then all of a sudden, Tim McGraw wouldn't do another interview with me. And then I came to Pittsburgh, and I kind of like had a clean slate. I felt like I was kind of worried. I was like, I hope they don't remember I'm the same guy that was in Memphis. You know what I mean? But when I would do these interviews with them, for the most part, he knows some stories where it didn't work out that way. No. I learned how to push to the edge, but not go where they didn't want to do another interview with me.
That's your skill set.
You're good at that.
That's your skill set for sure.
You're very good at towing that line and not going over it.
But one person that I did tick off in Memphis and in Pittsburgh was I'm going to remind me the second one. The first one's Vince Gill.
Yeah, that's the one.
When I was in Memphis, I had him on the radio when it was a rumor that he was dating Amy Grant, and they were both married to other people.
Ooh, okay.
And we did this big, long interview with them live on the air. Live. It wasn't like pre-taped. This was live on the air. And the reason he was on is because we had auctioned off one of his guitars for charity for like $20,000. He was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to call in. Jesus. So I waited till the very end of the interview. That was always my style because I knew then if you hung up on me, I already got the whole interview in. And I go, hey, Vince, there's a rumor you're dating Amy Grant. Do you have anything to say about that? And there was just like this 5-second pause. It was just like very awkward. And I didn't say anything. And he goes, you know, man, that's very disrespectful. He just tongue lashed me. He was like, you know, there's people involved in this, man. There's feelings. And I said, and then I said,
you got to be shitting me.
Oh, I was like,
is this interview out in the
live?
I
don't know. It was in the night. And then I go, and this is when he gave me the last kick to the balls. I go, Vince, I apologize. I didn't want to ruin your day. He goes, you couldn't ruin my day if you tried. I said that to him. Live on the air.
Right.
And then, listen, and then the interview ended, and then like a week later it came out that Vince Gill was dating Amy Grant. So what did I do? Played the interview every day, over and over again, of him kind of denying it. And people would come up to me at the bars, Danger, that was awesome, man.
Busted.
So anyway, fast forward like 15 years into the future. I've been in Pittsburgh 10 years. Yep. I'd never seen Vince Gill again because he kind of went away after that.
Yep.
We're at the CMA Awards, and Vince Gill had an album out called Guitar Slinger. And we hadn't played any of his records for 10 years. And when we did the interview, I go, Vince, your album's called Guitar Slinger, but you've been mostly just golf club slinging for the last 10 years.
Is that what you actually said?
Because he loved playing golf. I thought I did some homework. Cricket. You know, I'd looked at his stuff. He's a golfer. He was like a single-digit handicap.
Cricket.
And it did not go where I thought. He was like, no, man, I've been putting out music. You just guys haven't been playing it.
Yep.
And he was not happy with my...
Maybe you should stick to golf.
Probably worse than the original question in Vince Gill's mind.
Oh, it got hostile.
I remember you jerk.
Yeah.
He said that.
No, he didn't say that.
No.
But
it was obviously awkward.
Now
the air came out of the room.
Oh yeah, because
where do we go from here?
And I don't know. Frank Bell would say, like, I remember him telling me, like, he goes, these artists, they do remember everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's a chance when he walked into that booth, he knew I was the guy that 15 years prior had pissed him off.
Yeah, he
was just waiting for the moment to give it to me.
Well aware of that because I made an offhanded comment the very first time I started working with Mr. Stanley. I said, hey, you know, we grew up as Kiss fans in this town, but man, our local radio station would never play Kiss in the 80s or 90s. He goes, WDVE, Pittsburgh. Yeah, we couldn't just like off like this.
Yeah.
He knew.
And I went, wow. And then I've had Chris Winter on on my podcast, and we've talked about that a bit. And she said that, you know, we didn't really push that. And she goes, I don't know why. And I've asked Eddie Crow. I've asked a couple other folks too. And there was no one ever gave me a real. I asked Hirsch. I've had Hirsch on.
They remember that.
And they don't know, but Paul remembered the name of the call station. Because I guess it probably was an ongoing thing. As you're touring in a certain city's probably not playing you, you kind of...
How do you not play Rock and Roll All Night? That was an anthem.
I think that was just Electric Lunch, but the whole thing was
just saying, like Detroit Rock City and all this stuff. Like, Rock and Roll All Night was an anthem. for years.
There was some bias in town. It could be anything. It could have been the station program director. It could be the program
That's
director.
what I'm saying. It's a program director.
Yeah, no, I get it.
One person
I
makes
get
that
it,
decision.
you know.
And if
But
they
the
have a
artists
bad
know.
taste.
They know.
Yeah.
They definitely know. Because they've probably been being told, too.
Hey, sorry. Who was the second artist that pissed off?
Uncle Cracker.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, the band Uncle Cracker?
Yeah.
Do you know who he is? He's from Detroit.
Was that a whole band or one person?
Just one person.
He was like with
that.
Kid Rock.
Yeah.
He's from Detroit. Anyway, long story short about that, he had a Detroit shirt on. And during our interview at the CMA Awards, and I said, he goes, "Hey, Danger, how come in Pittsburgh?" And I thought we were bros, man. We were having the greatest interview of all time. And then he goes, "How come in Pittsburgh you can push your kids in a stroller around downtown, but you can't do that in Detroit?" And I go, "Well, maybe because Detroit's the murder capital." And then he goes, "But how do they know it's the murder capital? Why do they say that?" And I said, "Well, what they do, Uncle Cracker, is they count up all the murders in a year, and you're in first place." And then he didn't think any of this was funny. And then somebody...
And it got awkward.
Then do you remember someone out in the hall walking by was loud, and he goes, "Hey, we're doing an interview." And I said, "Y'all better be careful. He's from Detroit. He might kill you." And that was the end of our friendship right there.
That was one for
we
the
were
books.
bros until
And
then.
Tim Miller. And then Justin Moore came walking in.
Oh, you remember that?
I wasn't there.
You offended Justin Moore?
No,
he came walking in.
Justin Moore came in next, and I was actually a little bit upset because I liked Uncle Cracker. And he goes, "What's up, Danger?" And I go, "Man, I feel bad. I just insulted Uncle Cracker." And he goes, "Well, at least you didn't insult a country singer." That's a true story. Unedited, and then I felt better.
Redemption. 100% redemption. No, hey, whatever.
It's hilarious.
That was the end of it.
You guys brought, I know Freddie Cuomo talks about this all the time. And it's
God bless Freddie.
One of the best moments we had was when I don't know who to give credit for this because I got there a little late. You brought Johnny Van Zandt.
Yes.
And his brother,
Donny.
who's in Donny. Johnny and Donny is in 38 Special, right?
Yes.
When they were doing a solo thing, country thing, and you brought them down, and we gave them a couple guitars, and we gave them Boogie Street T-shirts. Of course, you give stuff away. You never think. That night was the CMA in Vegas.
ACMs.
The country music,
ACMs in Vegas.
And I don't watch this stuff.
ACMs in Vegas, yes.
He took that brown Boogie Street shirt, put it under his flannel, and went out there, and they were performing that night.
Yeah, he wore it on national television.
Yeah.
That's a cool moment.
I was just
Yes.
like, holy shit.
Exactly.
And then they came back a year later, and they came down again. I think it was just Johnny this time. He came back. He was on your show, and you brought me down to sit in there.
Yeah.
In there, and then we walked them down.
Well, those guys were super.
Because they were
nice.
at they were at
fantastic.
Pepsi Roadhouse.
Yes.
That's 38 Special.
Yes.
That when he came by himself.
Okay.
They were 38 Special. Yes.
That was very.
I think so.
It was
But Van
Johnny's.
Zandt, they had a band. So the brothers
Yes.
made Van Zandt, and they
Yep.
had about 2 or 3 big hits together.
Yep.
Right.
That was a good moment. That was a real good moment.
The one
What
guy
was
was
the one
38
song?
Special. At one
Yeah,
point or
Donny
another.
Van Zandt
Was
was.
his 38
And then
special.
Johnny Van Zandt became the new lead singer of Leonard Skinner.
Yep.
Correct? Mm-hmm. And but for a minute they had that duo called Van Zandt, and I can't remember the name of the song, but it was like, "If you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans," or whatever. They had a couple number 1 hits together.
Yeah, so Johnny, I think Ronnie passed in the late 70s when they had the accident, right? And then they were on hiatus for a couple years, and then the band reformed. Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot joined with Rosington and Collins, and I think Johnny, the youngest brother, became the vocalist. I want to say that's like the late 80s maybe, and he's been with them all these years.
Yeah, they didn't do a whole lot after the accident. I know
Not for a while,
But they did put some. So Skinner, obviously the Ronnie Van Zandt version's the version everybody loves, but
Yes.
they did have some good songs after he passed. Isn't Simple Man afterwards, or is that before?
No, I think that's before.
That's before.
They're just
that's
doing.
definitely
I think they
before.
do make some new music. I think, but everybody's been left.
there's
for
some
the first
Google
couple
in here.
records.
It's definitely before that, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, that was a great moment for me. Like, because I don't even pay attention to that stuff. And people were calling me on my BlackBerry. You got to turn television. I'm like, what are you talking about? Put the Country Music Awards or whatever they were on. I'm like, okay, and there he was.
What
And I was just
channel?
like, you got to be shitting me.
Yeah, you were happy. I remember seeing you right after that.
I was very happy.
You're like, dude, I gave because I've had that happen once. This was, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Michael Ray did the same thing.
Oh yeah, he had his Froggy shirt on. And then one time, the It's About the Warrior Foundation guy gave me a shirt to give to Dierks Bentley backstage. And Dierks Bentley had a sold-out show out of Star Lake. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
That was a weird year because we weren't expecting that to be a big show.
Yeah.
And it turned into a monster.
Sellout. And I gave him the shirt backstage. I didn't know. I was just like, hey, there's a veterans organization here in town. They just wanted you to have that shirt. And what do most artists do with that? Thanks. And then they give it to their assistant and never see it again. And then we're out there, and he, in the middle of his show, he's like, hey, I want to say thanks to the... And he holds their shirt up and then puts it on, and they were all stroking out. Like, this is so
because
awesome.
Smart.
Steve actually brought a whole bus full of veterans to that show.
Yeah.
I remember because I set him up with
But that was cool,
Jennifer
man.
Stokes
Very much so.
out at Live Nation.
When artists do that, though, it's like when Toby Keith would play at Star Lake and then go over to the Mousetrap, the little bar down the street, and play pool. That's like legendary.
Yeah.
There were only 100 people there, but there's like 50,000 people that say they were there.
They were there as well.
If you were in, you were in.
Yeah, right. It's like, imagine you're at the show at Star Lake, and afterwards you go down to the corner bar and you're drinking a beer, shooting pool. And then the guy that just sold out the show down the street just walks in and goes, "What's up, boys? I'm here to shoot some pool too."
Isn't that like some of the stories? Didn't that make Springsteen like that a legend for doing crap like as Joe Perry of Aerosmith?
Oh, yeah.
Notorious for doing that kind of crap.
Yeah.
They weren't above the people. They would go just mix it up.
Yeah.
Springsteen especially did that. A lot.
I think like if you pay attention to any of the social media for the Stones, I mean Jagger was doing like this last couple tours. Wherever city he's in, you could just see him like walking around and just.
I mean, those stories are so legendary. Like, I still remember this. I remember one time Billy Joel played downtown Memphis, and at the Peabody Hotel, there's like a little stand-up piano in the lobby.
Yeah, sure.
And after his sold-out show, people were like, he went over to the Peabody and just started playing the piano in the lobby. Yep. And those just become legendary
piano
stories.
Man. If he sees the piano,
I
he's
think
going to play it.
Elton John's got that same kind of story too over the years, and that's just, I mean, it's just again, it's all a work, right? I mean,
Yeah,
sure. It's
they know that everybody's going to tell the story.
Yeah.
Word of mouth.
It's like whenever Bill Murray walked up to someone, pulled a French fry out of their plate, took a bite, and he said to him, "No one will believe you."
Yeah, when Bill Murray ate one of my fries.
Did it really happen?
That happens too when celebrities will photobomb like weddings.
Yes.
Like, stuff like that, the outdoor wedding photos. And like Tom Hanks is notorious for doing that.
The difference is now with all the phones and everything, there's proof usually now. Back in the day, you'd be like, I wish somebody had a picture of that. I'll give you one example. One time I was standing backstage at Star Lake waiting to, I don't know what I was waiting for. I was just standing there. And somebody came behind me and went, "Who and goosed me?"
Ooh.
Goosed me. And was like, "Ah!"
Luke Bryan.
It was Tim McGraw.
Oh.
And I turned around and then he ran away. I had a phone, but it was like in my pocket. I couldn't get it quick enough. And there was a lady working security there. She goes, "If only you had a video." She goes, "I saw him coming, but if I'd have grabbed a phone, he would have never done it."
My guess would have been Luke Bryan on that.
Luke Bryan.
We have video of him smacking your ass.
Yeah, we do have that.
You could use that someday.
He said that.
No, he goes,
"Danger, when you're ready to retire, you can sue me for this."
Sue me. He goes, how could you lose?
You got it on video.
How could you lose?
How could a judge find against me? That's my retirement plan.
You were this close to getting lucky with Tim McGraw.
I once sang on stage with him.
Did you? You were the guy up there singing?
They took us all up on stage, and I was sitting there. He comes, sat up next to me. I said, "Where the green grass grows." So I tell everyone I shared a stage with Tim
That's
McGraw.
Cool. Hey, one of the two coolest things I've seen. One is Brad Paisley when he had were you here, Tim, when he would have the bar on stage? You know, he has that song. What's Brad? Alcohol or I don't know. He has a bunch of drinking songs.
Was about alcohol.
But he would put a bar on each side of the stage, and he would invite like radio or just or backstage.
Each
people.
station would have two songs.
Yeah,
that you could go.
And we would just sit at the bar and literally drink beer, and he's like standing in front of us singing into the mic to the crowd, and he'd come over and kind of like. That's one of the coolest things.
I brought the frog up, remember?
Yes, we had the frog sitting at the bar too.
And they had the mascot of Brad Paisley up there, and they both kind of looked at each other and were like, because I asked Cliff Blake, I was like, "Hey, can I bring my mascot?" He goes, "No one's really ever asked me that before." I'm like, he goes, "All right." So I threw Tim Zock in that costume, and we went up on the freaking stage. Mr. Froggy was up on stage rocking.
And then the second coolest thing I've had happen to me in country music, because we know a lot of the things they happen all the time. But Zach Brown brought us all to stand on the side of the stage, and I know one of you guys was there with me. And Zach Brown walks over and says hi, and then he said like, I don't remember if he asked me, but for some reason I said to him, I go, man, my favorite song of yours is Highway 20 Ride, which is the song about the dad having to drive to pick up his kids. And he goes, oh, cool. And then he literally walked up to the microphone and sang that song.
Wow.
And I remember, because these artists all have a set list.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. If it was on there, you lucked out. Of course. I mean,
that's a one in a million.
Oh, yeah.
You take it any way you want.
Because it was like a sea of people out there. And these artists, they're not going to change up their set for you.
No,
so either I got lucky and that just happened to be the next song.
It was going to happen sooner or later. No, but I mean, you can mix it up.
Yeah, or he just said, I'm going to play this right now, and he did it, because I was like, it blew me away, because I've done this a long time, and these artists don't change. They already have their set list planned.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
The thing is, they know where we're standing whenever we are at concerts, though. They know exactly where the radio reps are going to bring us down. So they come over and they appease you, say hi, grab your phone, take a selfie.
You know what I mean?
They know exactly where you're at.
They bring you out between a certain amount of songs, and you're standing there, and they come over and say hi. It's all planned out.
It's choreographed.
And when he asked, I just told him my favorite song, and then he walked right over to the microphone and started singing it. Like that, actually, that's
pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was like, whoa,
that's pretty impressive.
Whoa, that's something that probably will never happen again at a big show like that.
Yeah.
At a local show, it can happen a million times if there's 10 people in the crowd.
They take requests.
Yeah.
Red Solo Cup. They brought us up on stage for Red Solo Cup.
They
brought our two women out.
Okay.
And then they had a bar set
Toby
up.
Keith.
And they brought.
We did that last time down at.
They brought
where the
radio people out. We sat at a bar. I don't remember if we were actually drinking or not, but we were on stage, and you look out, and you're like,
if it's a Toby show, I'm pretty sure you were.
Probably.
Man, I could tell you stories about Tim Miller, man. When we started going to the Country Music Awards every year, that's where I think me and Tim bonded a lot. That was towards about the last 5 years he was with Froggy. We would fly to Nashville, fly to Vegas, and do the awards twice a year. And I remember I had to do all the interviews, and it's like 8 hours of interviews. And then when we get done, there were all these parties. There were literally, remember one time there were like 5 parties, and I was like, Tim, let's go to every one of them. So we would go into one party, have a beer, have a second beer, and then we would
just my arm anymore.
We would have like a beer, and then we'd be like, hey, and then we would disappear and go to the next one. We were like, let's show our face and drink a beer or two at every party. And I remember thinking it was like 10 o'clock now, and I was like, I got to do 8 hours of interviews tomorrow, and I've already had 10 beers, And I remember Tim.
Stop it.
I never will forget this. I remember thinking, I got to go back. And Tim goes, okay. And he gets in some Uber with some other people. And it's like, there's 3 more parties.
Yeah. Went to winners and losers that night.
He's driving away.
That was early on.
I was like, I had to bow out.
You don't have to
that's
go
when
home.
the liver was young.
Look, I mean, being those first couple years, especially that Vegas year was incredible.
We had some good times.
You have to.
Blake Shelton had his bachelor party with Miranda Lambert
went to
there.
His bachelor party at the
I sang on stage. Remember?
Yes, they took us. We were in the MGM, and they took us in this door off of the main drag of the MGM, and we ended up in this other room
called the Mansion
with another room, and there were white gloved waiters, and
they had lobster tails and champagne,
big crab claws, and we had that. And then when we were done, we came back out and we went to a party. I don't know what club we were in. It was Blake Shelton's bachelor party.
Yep.
And it was radio friendly. And
he had Blake Shelton was singing, and so were other country stars, but it was karaoke.
And he sang, and
it was terrible.
Oh my god!
But I remember,
it was hilarious.
As I was walking on stage to sing, I how you sign up for karaoke, you're waiting your turn, and we're drinking. And then they go, Danger from Froggy Radio. And I'm coming up, and I see Blake Shelton walking by. I go, Blake, I'm about to sing you a song. And he goes, I got to piss. So he didn't hear my song.
There were other artists there as well. There were other artists there as well. And the next day when we had interviews, this one young artist,
Brett Eldridge.
I didn't want to say
he
that.
He sang
but
at the party too.
He showed up in the room. He was one of our early interviews.
Like a 6 a.m. interview.
Still had the same shirt on. It was button crooked. It was hilarious. He come in there. He was so hammered.
He was still wearing the same clothes.
Dude, I feel you, dude. Let's do this. We did the interview, and without a hitch, boom, done. And
Only in Vegas.
We did the interviews in the room. We had a double room with a living room there.
There's a suite.
And that's where we were set up.
I was on one side, Tim was on the other side, and there was a big suite in the middle, and that's where we did all the interviews. We did that for a couple
So
years.
did the artists like just parade themselves through the hotel at the different radio stations?
No, they had people working that was Charlotte. I think
Charlotte McCoy.
Charlotte McCoy.
Yeah, that was
Charlotte McCoy. She brought them in, and they brought them down to the rooms and moved them around and all this other stuff. That was the first year.
I'll tell you a funny story about
First year
that too.
over there.
So there's this big suite, all these like sectional leather couches and a kitchen, view of the Strip. And one side of the room is my bedroom, and on the other side is his bedroom. Well, we're doing this, and all of a sudden these artists, you're like, I don't want to name them, but some female artists come, I got to use the bathroom. And then Tim's like, you can use my bathroom.
Yeah.
And then this big giant country singer comes in and he's like, oh, you go use that bathroom over there.
True story.
That's Tim Miller
Use
for you right
that
there.
one.
You don't
Oh,
have
I
to go
see
home.
you got the supermodel in your bathroom and you sent ginormous Bigfoot into mine.
Yes,
Thanks
indeed
a lot
I
for
did.
that.
Yes, I did. All
True
right.
stories right there.
20 years for you, man.
20 years.
We'd be remiss not talking about 20 years on Froggy Radio for you.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But, we wouldn't have made it this long, reminiscing on all that guerrilla warfare at the beginning when we fought so hard and did
Guerrilla
all those
marketing,
things.
not guerrilla warfare. I think he thinks we're doing the combat.
What is guerrilla warfare?
It was warfare.
I think that's well, maybe there's a little bit of that. In
Yeah.
there, maybe.
So all that hard work at the beginning is the only reason like Froggy's still around, because 10 years ago we got rid of our downtown Pittsburgh signal. And
things got tough for the station for a while, right? I don't have a tough
During
word,
the
but
recession from automobile,
that got
auto
bad.
dealers,
like the late 2000s,
That got bad.
right?
when the auto market dropped out, that was probably 50%, if not more, of our
revenue.
advertising dollars.
And you folks moved from Ryan Court at that same time. Same time, roughly, I moved out of Ryan Court.
Yeah, we moved to Beaver County for 4 years, and then we moved back to Robinson.
Yeah.
Now we're above Mad Max and Robinson. But, I mean, the reason Froggy is still around and will be around probably till the end of radio is because of those 10 years. Yeah.
Set
We
the
went in and
foundation.
just,
You muscled your way into the market, right?
Easy.
I mean,
Yep. People tried to stop it, believe me. And they're still trying to stop
A lot of them.
But
because you're independent. You don't belong to Froggy is not part of
a major company.
Yeah.
Audacity
No, you're right.
or
It's a private.
Audacity.
or Odyssey. Audacity.
Yeah.
Odyssey,
You're right.
yeah,
We have not been bought and sold
that's a good
10
bun.
times in the last 10 years.
iHeartRadio. All
So
those.
independent radio has to be a minority in terms of like how stations are run today, right?
Well, those other companies like iHeart and Odyssey, not
Odyssey.
Audacity.
Yeah.
I like that, though. It's funny. They have a lot of muscle.
Have you ever used their app? It's an Audacity.
Oh, okay.
it gave us more ability to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, they can use their other market muscle,
Yeah.
to try to they're still trying to do the same stuff they were trying to do 20 years ago, trying to keep us off the parking lot,
Really?
Yeah,
Not so much anymore.
they're trying.
I think after Tim Miller left, I kind of made peace with the other stations because
He was never humiliated by these people.
right. No, him and the other girl used to
Once
go at
the
it all
gorilla
the
from
time.
the guerrilla marketing left.
But the thing was, it got to the point where people were ripping down other people's work and everything else. So it was like, all right, I'm going to save a spot for you. You put yours here. I'll put mine here. That way we don't have to be down here at 6 o'clock in the morning. And
yeah, there's a way to
kind of-
get along. I mean, you know what I
you
mean?
still compete. Like I never stopped competing.
FedEx and UPS can be in the same city and not like burn each other's buildings down. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
it can happen.
Well, it's kind of like the realtor practice, right?
Yeah.
We're all trying to get deals done, and we all kind of need each other to survive. I don't know if it's like that in radio, but in our
a little bit different,
Yeah, in
but
real- yeah.
but it's similar in there's only so many ears you can get.
Right,
and you're fighting for them.
right.
I come from a different school. Bullshit. Get your competitor down and don't let them up.
Put
I'm
your
just kidding.
boot on the neck.
I'm so far removed now. And Donny's right. The market has changed significantly since I left, so it doesn't do anybody any good to have these battles back and forth.
Right.
There's apparently there's enough room for
But it was fun.
three country stations. Again, I came in with an attitude because I had been treated so badly early on. Again, that's part of it.
Tim will get you too.
Yeah, right. I don't I don't forget.
You might
That's
think,
one thing I do not
look,
forget.
you might think Tim forgot, but one day when you go to flush your commode and it backs up, that means
He flushed an orange right down it.
it means he flushed an
Upper
orange
deck.
down there.
Yes,
He'll get
exactly. Yes. Again, that's not. He's not lying. Look, I don't.
Somehow there's got to be a
Look.
story attached to that.
Yeah.
something.
Hey, Eric, I forgot all about back
No
in the
less than
day.
10
Can I
of
use
them.
your restroom?
Again, that's just how I
thought
I
you
had
were
a
talking
job
about
to
putting
do.
an upper decker,
I had a job
He's done
to
that
do,
too.
and I did what I had to.
He threatened to do that at my house when he got here today.
I was gonna give him an
Swear to
upper
God,
decker.
that's exactly what he said. He goes,
An upper
Yeah,
decker
put an
in
upper
your
decker in
house.
your toilet. I was like, if you got it, man, go ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't, by the way.
Hey, do you
So
have an
anyways,
orange? And where's your restroom?
Yeah, where's the little cuties or whatever they are? The little orange.
It'll get right down there to the plumbing.
quick.
In real estate,
Anyways.
that's like the number one cause of a backed up sewage pipe right
If
there.
I hadn't been attacked early on, I
Tim
wouldn't have
Miller.
been that way. Just saying.
No, but what I found out was it's easier when the artists come into town if they don't have to separate us when we have radio rooms. And it made it easier on us because we weren't a reporting station for a long time. And it enabled us to still be able to get the same amount of time with them.
Yep.
And it made it easier to work with the record labels to get us in there and us not be pushed out.
Yep.
So that's the reason. That was my reasoning about getting along.
No, and you're right. You're 100% right. It was different back then. I mean, things
No,
had
He had to fight
you
his
and her
way
went-
in.
you
things
and her-
had things had changed a lot.
No,
at
you
that
had your
point.
fight. Frank had his fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Nope.
it was nasty.
Yeah.
And but the thing was, you dug down in the trenches,
Got us in there.
and that's what we did. I mean, we just worked, and
Yeah, you had to.
it was fun.
Competition is what it is. It's competition.
When you came here, did you think that you would be around 20 years?
No.
Yeah, me either.
No, did you? So look, I
I
don't
hope
know.
not.
I'm kidding. No.
I signed when I came
here.
here. They did do a contract. It was a 3-year contract, and I remember telling my family, "I'll be back in like 2 years." And
I'm bringing my 5 listeners with me.
yeah, and I was shocked when like things just really escalated. Like within 2 years of being here, Froggy was really making a push to be one of the biggest stations in town. And remember, Gerald would take out articles in the paper, "Froggy's #1," and
Yeah.
and it just happened quick.
Billboards.
Yeah, and when you have an amount of success like that, you don't want to walk away from it. And there were other factors too, like me getting married and having kids here in Pittsburgh. That happened about 5 years later, but it was hard to walk away when Froggy was doing so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
I remember Frank coming up to me one time because I'd gotten divorced and my personal life was not in a good place. But I remember Frank going, he goes, "Man, there's something weird about you, Danger." He goes, "The worse your personal life goes, the better your show seems to go." I remember saying that to him. It's like, well, thanks for making me feel a little better, Frank. That's a good day.
Look, best DJ in the market, no doubt. This guy, interview wise, all right. We play music, so it's not really a talk station, but interview wise, I would put any DJ up against him, and they can't compete. There ain't no way. I mean, I've sat in on a lot of interviews. I've heard a lot of interviews. I've been to the CMAs, the ACMs, and the artists, when they're doing 50 interviews a day, they always seem to just kind of light up and react to coming to see Danger. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, finally a breath of fresh air.
It's not the same thing. It's not the
not
same
going to
thing.
be the same run-of-the-mill questions.
What's your summer plans?
This guy
Please
is
bring
going
it with you.
This
What'd you
guy
eat
is
for
going to
breakfast?
bring something here that I have not
What'd
had
you eat for
to.
breakfast?
And that's what makes the difference is from your cookie cutter radio station DJs to someone who actually has a skill in interviewing people.
Asking about Amy Grant.
But
Howard,
I learned from that.
Howard Stern and what's her name on NPR, Gross,
Yeah.
and this guy right here. You know what I mean?
And Rogan, though.
Well, I try to keep.
And Rogan. yes.
I mean, listen, the things I think about when I interview someone are, one, I think about the person driving down the road listening.
Right.
How can I make
Yes.
interviewing Tim Miller, Donny Fast, and Eric McKenna interesting to someone driving down
Good
the
luck
road?
with that.
That's my first thing I think of. And then the second thing I think of, and this was a Frank Bell thing, because earlier in my career, this wasn't the second thing I thought of, is these people came here today. They took time out of their schedule. They moved heaven and earth to be here. How can I make them feel like this was a good experience?
Yeah.
So those two things right there helped me still be doing this. Because if I was still pissing people off, I'd have been gone 15 years ago.
Well, that's advice. That's advice that you shared with me when I started a podcast. You said you've got to find a way, no matter what your temptation is, to make sure it's always about your guest. And it took 20, 30 shows before I really understood that. But then it became great. Then I loved it then because it really was featuring the other person sitting across the table. Yeah,
because then they'll. You already know. You've already reaped the rewards of it because then they'll tell their friends about it. They like you. All of a sudden, they like you because you made it about them. 100%. It's a weird psychological thing, but it works.
It's real, though. But it's real. Yeah. And once you first get your first taste of seeing it happen, it's like, wow. It's like magic.
Because now if you watch an interview and you see them making it all about themselves, you just know they're a hack.
You're out.
You're out. Well, the thing is, I mean, I think that whenever I'd go down to the awards with you, I would look at the buzz. He has a lot going on. So I'd give him this, I'd give him that, talk about this, talk about that. Whenever John Party came in, because he was talking about puke in the parking lot, and John Party came in and he brought it up, and I was like, there it is. Yeah. Next thing you know, we had one of the funniest interviews.
That was a good one.
That was one of the funniest interviews ever. And like I said, I mean, we just always worked well as a team with all of us. Like we spent summertime, we would spend more time with each other than we did our own families.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was like, so we did well.
We should have had to pay taxes to Burgettstown for all the weekends we spent at Starlight.
You don't have to go home,
right?
Yeah. But you can't stay here. Get out.
I didn't bring that up.
Don't say that.
You know that story, right?
Coming back. No, I don't.
Danger first year, hammered down at Station Square. He's in my car.
We're all mid-20s.
He's like, I need some time. I can't drive, whatever. So I drive him over to his car. I was like, listen, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
I've had like 47 beers.
Get out of my car. I don't care if you go sleep in your back seat. I got to go.
So he drops me off at my car in Station Square, and I was so hammered. I go, open up my car, get in the back seat, and just lay down. And this is the only time in my life, but I remember waking up the next morning, it was like 10 a.m., and I was in Station Square parking lot.
How'd you feel?
I felt great. I was like I wasn't robbed or
got some rest.
I remember thinking, that Donny Fast, what a friend. He just dropped me off here. And now, that was probably 02, 03. There weren't Ubers yet. There was probably a yellow cab.
Trying to get a cab in the city back then was
tough. Yeah.
It was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I walked home to Mount Washington when I lived up there from Steeler games because you couldn't get a cab. I'd walk from the North Shore all the way up to Mount Washington, take the incline up if I made it there in time.
I'm proud to say that was the only time I ever spent the night at Station Square in my car. Now, I've heard stories of people doing that. I'm not going to say who, where cops knock on the window, and I've heard they can give you a DUI.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you're like in the back seat.
As long as your keys aren't in the ignition.
Oh, they can't? Okay. Because I remember the next morning thinking, oh, I better get the heck out of here now. I'm in trouble.
You did responsible thing, right? You slept in your back seat in a parking lot.
Yeah, there you go.
With a beautiful view of the Three Rivers.
Cheers to 20 years, buddy.
20 years.
Cheers. You guys have fun?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Eric.
I can't thank you folks enough for doing it.
Hey, listen, you guys are all good dudes. And I got to say, man, we're all, I think, if there's one thing in common with us, we're all a handful. You know what I mean? For sure.
No doubt about it.
And as you get older, though, I think you learn how to like,
moderate.
Nobody's safe. Anything can come out at any time.
That's right.
I think we maneuvered this pretty well. I don't think any dead bodies floated at the top.
I'm sure there's 10 stories we should have told.
That'll be another time.
That'll be. This is only episode 1. Right?
I have stories.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do a 3 or 2 and maybe a 3.
Stories.
I appreciate it, guys.
Hey,
been a pleasure. Thanks. Thank you.
And again,
sir.
congratulations, 20 years, brother.
20 years.
Thank you,
gentlemen. Thank you, friends. We are out.